On behalf of the Hindu Community Institute, my colleagues at the Hindu Community Institute, I welcome you to the first inaugural session of the Council of Hindu Tradition. It is something, we'll talk about that more later on, but it's something we think is being done for the first time, and I'll talk about the significance of that later on. First, let me introduce a few people. I'm Satish Sikka, I'm a board member, and I'm also the class faculty host. Along with me, we have Dr. Kailash Joshi, board member and co-president. Vijay Kapoorji, who many of you know, some of you are students of his as well. He's also a board member and a co-president. Then Dr. Prasad Kaipa, also board member and dean of faculty. Then we have Yogi Chog at the back. He's our media chair. Delighted to have him. And then Akshat Kumar has been helping around here, and you'll be hearing from all of these folks pretty well today. Akshat Kumar has me talk about the learning management system, which is something new we're trying technology-wise. So all the classes are archived, and you have access to them as well. And then we have Ram Jitagavu, who's our classroom manager. He's a great help to us in trying to set everything up for the classroom and all the logistics. Few others that are not here but will be joining us later on. Dr. Kundan Singh is coming from an appointment in San Francisco. He'll be here shortly. He is also our curriculum, he's handling our curriculum management. So one of the things we are trying to do is make sure that all of these can be set up for accreditation. So there is a formal process we have to follow, and he's making sure that we are following the right process. All the lessons plans are being reviewed by him and so on. And the other one you're missing is Vara Ramakrishnan. Hopefully she'll be joining us shortly. She's also
Dr. Mukul Acharya, he was a significant
yes.
He saw on second person.
Right. The introduction of the scholars we'll do a bit later on because I want to allow enough time to do that. And then I want to welcome each one of you represent different organizations, most of you, and I want to welcome the partner organizations that are working with us, and that's really helpful going forward so in the community. Before we start with the agenda, then I'd like to ask Vijay Kapoorji to lead us into Shanti Path. And I think Akshat, if you can have them up on the screen as well. We will always start a class with Shanti Path, and we end with closing prayers as well. We'll do that towards the end.
Namaste. I think most of you know this. This is very appropriate for the learning of Vidya, where, of course, the two most important people are there, is the Vidyarthi and the teacher. So this is why it is done in a dual case. And it has the swaras. So it is from most of the Vedas actually have it. It's a very important prayer for the beginning of any knowledge. So kindly just follow after me. If in case you are not familiar with the swaras, and later on, then of course when you get used to it, then you can just do it on your own. Om Sahana. To Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinam Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Okay,
you forgot to announce Garuji.
Sorry.
Garuji is also on through the Zoom.
Okay. I also want to mention that Gaurav Rastogi is also on through the Zoom system. He's in India right now, so he's also participating, and he will be talking later on in the presentation. into the agendas. Akshay,
G.
the agendas, right?
Yes.
Sure. Can you move this screen forward so that?
Okay. Yeah.
So what happened to we're gonna have the remote people here? No.
Yeah, I couldn't get that working. I'm sorry.
We're gonna have.
We have
the
people-
LA and Sacramento
Yeah,
people on that
we have,
street.
we have people in 2 other locations, LA and Sacramento. So they are listening to us. We are not able to capture them to show to them.
So Satish, you were able to see everyone on the bridge, on the Zoom bridge.
Oh, that's great.
Wonderful.
Hi, Gauravji. Can
Namaskar.
you see? Namaskar. Can you see all of us?
I can see all of you, Lataji.
Okay, okay. We can get started then. So we are, I think we are collectively embarking on a very, very important journey together. This is something that has never been done before. And collectively, that is we at HCI, the Hindu Community Institute, and you, the scholars, will look forward to making that happen. The success really depends on this partnership that we are establishing. Since it's the first time we're doing it, there are things we learn from it, and hopefully you will help finalize the curriculum and also develop some of the field manuals. The intent is of serving our community, and we try to do this in a very professional manner, and you'll see that throughout our presentation. So in the agenda, after me, Dr. Joshi will come up and give you an overview of HCI, the Hindu Community Institute. Gaurav remotely will come up and talk about the varied demographics and needs. I will go through with each one of you and do a brief introduction of each one of you. Then I'll talk about specifically the CHT role. CHT is the Council on Hindu Traditions, which you will be at the end of all the sessions. Vijay Kapoorji will come up and give some perspectives on Hinduism. We'll have a short break. We have to cut the break short so we can finish on time. And Dr. Kunal Singh Ji will be back and will give an orientation to the course, go through what's going to be covered in the remaining sessions. And then we'll do a group discussion with each one of you, talking about what your objectives are for the CHT course. I think we did some of that when we sort of interviewed you in terms of what you wanted, but that was on the phone. So this way we get a chance for the entire class to hear from each other and therefore build on ideas from each other. We can't, does this thing go up?
We move on. That's it. We have some more there.
Yeah, this thing at the bottom.
Okay,
And then,
over there.
and then 4:30 to 5 is when Akshat comes up and talks about the learning management system. And at the end of that, again, Vijay will come up and we'll do the closing prayers. And then we have a photographer plan to come up and do a picture. Hopefully it won't take too long. So we will try and finish as close to 5 as possible and then do the group pictures. And with that, if I can invite Dr. Kailash Joshi to come up and give us an overview of HCI.
So I'm going to actually sit down and whatever is maybe आप यहाँ आ जाइए. I can take that chair. I'm just going to back to Akshat. Yeah. Okay. First of all, I say namaste. And being the first,
That is the background, so it's okay.
being the first attempt ever, but we worked for a couple of years on it. It's not like we just started yesterday, but in terms of the logistics and the technology, how it worked out. So sorry for that. Next time, I think it will be on the time and perfection and all that stuff. So I have some slides to show you about how we got here and how you got here. And before I do that, I want to go to Sahanaba to really give you a very beautiful classical interpretation of teacher teaching students. This is going to be quite different. This is going to be, we're all teachers and we're all students. You're all scholars actually. The entire class is all you scholars. And there's a lot of very prominent people in the class who have huge amount of knowledge. Our idea is to get an experiment. You see what we're trying to do. All of us interact and put our best ideas together and create a recipe for our tradition that can go for the whole world. It's like our people like Laura, who is one of my amazing person who's done a lot of this work and we say we are going to be the Harvard of counseling. So just keep that in mind. What we are trying to create is an institutional service for our tradition, where other traditions will come and say, how did you guys do that? So you are into a very significant experiment with us. Some people didn't show up, and I hope they in the next round. Stay with us. You are co-developing of a new concept in the Hindu tradition. I just want to make sure that we all have a clarity on it. So now I can go to my slide. But before I go to my slides, I want to tell you a couple of stories. I have one story that I share quite often because it makes a very significant point. And that's about this father. So his daughter graduated from college. So the both wife and husband went to pick her up on her campus in the countryside. So they go there, and the father also had graduated from the same college 35 years ago. So he was going there with how you go on the old campus, the nostalgic feeling. He was going around, he said, I want to go to this dorm, see this classroom and all that stuff. So he ran into one classroom which had an exam given, last exam on that day. I think that his daughter kind of took that exam. So he looked at the paper, the questions, and he looked at the questions and they looked kind of familiar. And he looked at the bottom name of the professor, Tom Williams. Same professor, same questions. And he was paying like $35,000-$40,000 a year, college. And he said, what a waste. What did I do? What did we do here? He said, he asked the doctor, he said, hey, where is Tom Williams' office? He said, oh, it's the same office. Huh? That guy was still there for 30 years. He knocks on the door. Tom Williams is sitting there with his glasses, buried in his 1,000 old books. And he said, by the way, probably, remember me, probably, I was here. I graduated 30 years ago, whatever have you. Yeah, you went and worked for Xerox, didn't you? He said, yeah. He said, by the way, I'm very upset. He said, what happened? He said, I was walking down and happened to pick up this question paper. And I said, my heavens, what's happened here? My daughter just graduated, the same question. He said, sit down. Please, no problem, don't get upset. The questions are the same, all the answers have changed. That is the story here. How do you preserve a tradition? Shankaracharya asked it. And then how many generations are there after that? That's what we have to ask that question. That's what we've been doing for 2.5 years. Some of us, very profusely, spend thousands of hours on the subject in the Silicon Valley. How do we preserve our tradition now? That is what our Shankaracharya was the same way. Keep that in mind. So that story is significant. So last few months, I have become very keen on finding out where is the Hindu tradition in the Bay Area. By the way, all this is for the Bay Area. It's for Hindus who are born here, who have probably not visited India, who may not go to India. They don't have a connection in India. This is for American Hindus for the next 50 generations. So that's the second point you want to remember. The recipe we are trying to prepare has to apply to them, your grandkids, my grandkids, and their grandkids, not my cousin in India and what's happening in their life. It's not New Jersey. It's the greater Bay Area. So we are like a village now. Our own Hindus have their own village, 250,000 live here, come from south, north, east, west, Shaivite, Vaishnavite, Advaita. I don't even know all the beautiful variations there are. That's all going to become a single identity for becoming Hindu American. They will not use the word Indian because Indian, my grandchildren don't use the word Indian anymore because they say, yeah, we're Hindus, but I'm American. Indian gets disconnected. Jewish Americans don't say we are Israelis or we're Polish Jews. Have you heard anybody say I'm Polish Jew? The Jewish American. So you have to recognize the forward-looking view of our identity and our tradition and how do we discuss it. And by the way, we have some vague ideas here. So don't think we have got all the recipe cooked. We have some ingredients, but in the next 6 to 9 months, we're going to put it together with everybody's contributions and help, and a lot of reading and a lot of discussion as to what is it that can go forward and what is it that doesn't have to go forward. It is valuable to us, but the kids don't comprehend. So I'll give you 3 quick stories. I have my granddaughters. So my 8th granddaughter, I happened to walk by and she said to her 3 friends, she said, "Hey, meet my Dadaji." And they said, "Oh, who is he?" He said, "Hey, in our family, we don't say grandpa. We say Dadaji for my father's father. We say Nanaji for my father's father." Oh, really? He said, "Oh, yeah, and by the way, you know, it's funny, they say cousin, brother. We don't say cousin. So just think about that. In our family, we have no clue where it came from. But she thinks there is something different about her. We do that terminology now. Then I happened to go to the 40th show of this Mount Madonna wine show. And that I was amazed. I'd heard about it. I go to that. They do Ramayana. These are Caucasian Americans. They live in there. It's kind of a Vedic kind of a tradition. They do an amazing show. They capture the 10 days of Ram Lila, which you used to watch in India, into a few hour show. And these kids practice for a whole year. And who is sitting in the audience? 99% of people are not like us. And I'm saying something is not right here. And then 2 weeks ago, I was invited to what's called the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment, CSE. And Umaji, she's the head acharya there. She had all white people. They start Asatoma, Sadgamaya, they start that. They do Guru Purnima and all that. So they're basically Hindus, but they call themselves something else. And her whole sermon that day was for about a few hundred people, spellbound. She went to the Purusharthas. She talked about what Dharma means, Artha means, Kama means. She stopped at Moksha because that's too complicated. And I can understand that because that topic is not what everybody can handle. But she stopped at those 3. Everybody was spellbound about how, and she related the Dharma to the conditions in this country today. What's that happening? The characters and all kind of things that are going. And I said, I wish, and by the way, it's like a 6-star facility where they sit and the conductor is beautifully managed, well articulated, and people donate money, which is beautiful. If you can take that diksha and pay $100, I say that's good. The people walk away with big smiles, and they're not Hindus, but what they are doing is they're following a sort of a Hindu tradition. So I said, hey, that world seems like taking away, and our world is hanging on to those what we brought from that old country. Somewhere there's a opportunity here to create a blend. So anyway, that is kind of my sense of tradition. I'm not, the religious person in that big way. I haven't done all the scriptures that I read. I've done general reading, but I have a sense of value in our tradition that made me and made many of us. So that is just the background. So now I go here. I think we can go to the first slide, please.
Yes. Kailash, can you stand a little bit further back so that the camera can actually see?
Oh, you want me to be shown?
Yeah, the remote participants are all very eager to see the speakers.
If I go there, my shadow is going to be on the screen.
No, I think this should be fine. Just like, yeah, this is enough.
Satish, you please go better. Thank you. This better over here?
Yes. Okay, let me quickly move to the next slide.
You tell me what makes sense.
No, this is good.
Okay, all right. So let's go to the first slide, please. Okay, so we're going to just very quickly, I'm going to be very fast on these because these slides are on LMS system. Please read them. We are also going to give you a quiz. Each session is going to require you to do 750 to 1,000 words. And you can now add things you're hearing today. Put your own English. Teach us. Reflect on. So let's go next one, please. So HCI is I think in one slide we demystified that what we're trying to do. We're saying, look, HCI is an innovation in community service. So we are looking at community service. We are not a religion. We're not a prayers. We are a community, fundamentally a community service platform, and we are looking at innovations.
we're wanting to do things that have not been done before but have value, and they may not all succeed, but we're going to try them in the Silicon Valley manner, and it is going to be community service. And we have two basic pillars. Our fundamental pillar really is Bhagavad Gita, wisdom. That is our number one. What makes us different is captured in that very beautiful book. And that has no limit. That wisdom is unlimited. As we know, it's been gone on, it's evergreen, it will remain evergreen for many, many millennia. And then here we have all I call the GG, greater good. These are greater goods, and they have no limit. The simple greater good is take a banana peel on the street and throw it away. You don't slip, but nobody else slips. And then the bigger good, greater good is what Mahatma Gandhi did for freeing India, or Mother Teresa did for a lot of people. So the greater good is, so you look at those two, we just basically saying that if we can create an environment and a intellectual, emotional, logical connection between these two, that's the young lady who did our PowerPoints, by the way. I told her, show me an Indian face. She said, okay. That's Shalini?
Salaja.
Yeah, Selja. Very, very, very professional, wonderful girl. Anyway, so that is a one slide presentation of what Hindu Community Institute is all about. I just want to start with that. Next one, please. So this is really, we just founded it this year, but we worked on it for about 3 years. Many people, they came and went, and now we'll probably end up with a new, fresh team taking it forward, and they're showing up very nicely. We are a California non-profit organization. The ownership of this entity is going to be the community of Greater Silicon Valley. It will be owned by the community, no individuals. And the funding so far has been 4 or 5 of the starting team members have put in our own money. So we are self-funded. We have not gone for any contributions outside this. We will do that, but we have to prepare for it. Our mission, as I mentioned to you, is to develop community services based rooted in the Hindu wisdom, which is reflected in the Bhagavad Gita, and embedding with the modern methods and best practices. So that's a very important one. We are going to go and get ideas from wherever we can get them. And in the classroom, you're going to see Jewish people come in and talk, and Buddhists will come, and humanitarians will come, what they do, and we're going to extract the best of those ideas and capture them. We have a board of directors, interim board of directors. We have a formal management structure. We have a financial model. I'll describe that very quickly. And we have a full disclosure that we are not affiliated with any entities outside the Bay Area. None, zero. And we do not use any other word but Hindu. We do not say Hindu ABC. We will not do that. We remain within the definition of Hindu. We have strategic relationship for knowledge with the humanitarian group called Sukham. You're going to hear from them here. This CSE, we talked about it. Mount Madonna. There's other people who have knowledge and wisdom to give. We're going to bring them as partners. All the sampradayas that you represent, you're our partners. We learn from you when you have good practices. Seva International is a very good example for that. And we're going to cooperate with all Hindu, Vedic, Yogic, and all other faiths for best practices. So we're not going to have any hesitation in picking the best practices. We are in Milpitas. This is our office, and I'll talk about how generosity of a gentleman who owns the building, he's given us this space free. Okay, next one, please. I won't go to the board structure. The point I want to make to you here that we are managing this as a public company with all the responsibilities. We have every box will have names. These are names filled up right now. They will be coming in and out. And we have interim board, which will become a permanent board. We have 2 co-presidents. We have executive committee, dean administration. Just like a university, we need to get accredited. So we'll have all those positions filled up by people, counseling, Bhagavad Gita curriculum, web technology, and all the positions there. And basically the points are that no position or title will be permanent. These will all be for certain duration, and then people will leave, others will come in. Our ideal model for here is that people donate 2 years of service, those who can afford to, and also can make a contribution of money for 5 years. That's what we've done initially. We said we'll commit some time of our life and also put some money every year for 5 years to make sure that this thing continues. So we are not just a one-time starter. We have a free agent relationship with people, so they can leave anytime, but we have a request that when they leave, they bring in a replacement for them into the job. So we don't go into a panic. And we want to have a waiting list for all the positions. And by the way, all the scholars in this room, you're eligible to apply for some of those positions if you have time and so on, once you understand what they are. So it's open for everybody, or anyone, Hindus, non-Hindus, they can serve here and make it happen. Next chart, please. Our code of conduct is very serious. This is on the website. It's very important because as you build an institution, you have to have a value system that's very clear for everyone. And these are what institutions do. This applies to everyone from the board, volunteers, our partners, everybody, that we treat everybody as equal. And equal means in capital. Everybody is equal. We are all G. We refer to each other as G when we talk. We use the same chair for the teaching. We have respect, caring, and sharing attitude for everyone. I want to make a point about the sexual harassment. As you know, it's become even much more awareness in the world high, which I'm very happy about. But that is a very serious situation that we also take very seriously. None of us would make any commitment on behalf of HCI unless we are authorized. We don't spend any money unless we are authorized. We do not give any information to anyone unless the person has a need to know, and I'm authorized to say. For example, somebody says, hey, what's going on? I would not say, let me give you the whole story. I'd say, who is this person? Why am I compelled to tell him anything about anything? And am I authorized to talk about it? So those are the questions I ask, and then I say, okay, I think everything is good. The weather is good. How are kids? And we move on. Okay. Here, very important also is I call the suspected. He said, she said, we will not allow them because that is where organizations go into a different wrong direction. Rumors start. Somebody says something. Who are these guys? What are they trying to do? If anyone in our team gets any input that they think is of a concern, please get one of us. Email to me, Satish, anybody, and say, I just want to talk to you. And I will take my time to meet you and understand it. But please do not let anything go by that has a serious consequence to us because we want to deal with it. So that is the reason I made the point about this spreading talks is not a good idea unless they're factually verified. Okay. So our financial model is very straightforward actually. We have two kind of currencies. We use what I call the TDs, the treasury dollars, that's what we all know. But we also have what we call the Ohm dollars. You get anybody any question on that? What is the Ohm dollar? Hello. I want some reaction to that. Yes.
What is Ohm dollar? What is Ohm dollar?
Ohm dollar. We have when we created HCI, we did some prayer. Are you familiar with cryptocurrency? Right? Bitcoins. Bitcoins. So what they do is you go on the server and you earn them. You do some, you do some work on the server, software kind of work. And you basically create these Bitcoins or currencies. So we were given a divine server that said that you, HCI, can automatically, anybody who makes a contribution, you don't have to pay in treasury dollars. You can pay them in Ohm dollars or Ashirvad dollars. So that is a currency concept that we're using here. Does anybody have any question on that one yet?
How do you mine Ohm dollars?
You mine them by coming, like I have been mining them for about 2.5 years. Some others have been doing it for a long time also. Just today you have begun to mine them also because you're going to make contributions to this curriculum, this course, this institution. You're going to build this institution. So when people make a contribution, they're automatically mining Ohm dollars. And these Ohm dollars go into your divine wallet. Just like there's a crypto wallet, every one of us have a divine wallet. And there is no limit to how much you can put in there. And that wallet goes with you. You get it? Huh?
It's called Karma Yoga.
We have different names. I said, we call them, these are good looking dollars actually. Right there. You can call them. So these are, so every one of us has an amazing, I have earned so much of these in this process. I feel amazingly rich. So these are the, so what happens here is we go to the donors. We go to the real donors. Some of us have done that already. And they bring these TDs into HCI, and instantly what happens? The own dollars go to their divine account. You get it? For every dollar for dollar instant, it goes right there. And those of us here, directors, management, volunteer, landlord, technology support, one of our friends, Ram Reddy, he's doing all the technology support on home dollars. And now you are now part of the same. So this is all home dollars.
Is it like a charity in cash as opposed to charity in your service hours? Or
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that you are getting paid. You don't see it, but it's going somewhere. All the contributions we make for the greater good, in this case is HCI, is being paid in this currency. I just want to make sure that we say that that option is there for people.
You're saying you're earning credit, I guess, for contribution as you make contributions?
Yeah, that is divine credit.
Right.
We're not keeping track of, there's no ledger,
Right.
but it's going in your divine ledger.
Yeah, so it's a value, it's a, I guess, your appreciation for the works that you have contributed. Is there a way of looking at it?
Different way. Different people look at it different way.
Yeah.
It's a.
$20 we can feel and look, but this you cannot see.
So here, this one has a touchy. This is a touchy feely. See that this dollar has a touchy feely, right? That dollar does not have a touchy. It's only a feely. Okay, that's the big difference. Anyway, so I kind of use that as to convey to the fact that all the contributions here are going to have amazing value long term. People who are contributing to creating this idea, this institution, and they may not be earning these dollars, but for sure they're earning those dollars. Does that come across to you? By the way, if you have different point of views, let us know. I want to hear more on this. If you have any different ideas, we should never accept it the way it is. That's the whole idea, is to make it better. Okay.
I have one thought there.
Yes.
Maybe slightly out of that, but we're all fighting the battle of survival every single day, and we're earning. Now we're not earning $30 but we're earning home dollars. So our mindset is still the same, right? We were running after currency, our currency. Now we're running after divine currency. So, so that was my thought. When you're talking about service, it has a different connotation, right? When you're not really earning anything.
Yeah. I think good point. If your mindset and your reactions to a divine currency is the same as actual currency, then it's not good. If you get stressed and say, "My God, I got to earn these dollars," just like these dollars create a lot of stress. I know, it's well known. If those are beginning to create stress to you, then you have to take a pause and say, "I wonder why this is happening."
I think I'll also add, the key is the value exchange. Are you creating value? Are you creating value for a community? Is the HCI creating value for you? And is there an exchange that you feel as a fair and something that you are adding value? I think that's where the currency becomes realized.
That's right.
So the idea of calling it a feely dollar is that you feel that there is a value being created in you. And when you talk to other scholars, other people here, you need to look at it and say, am I creating value by what I'm saying or what I'm exchanging? And if you remember that, instead of saying something that may not add value, please remember, either you add a currency accepted in one way, or you add own currency so that other people who interact with you will go away with more added value because they talk to you, they interact with you, they learn. So that's the key message.
I think thing is that I think this is important because when you get a TD, you say, "Oh, I got $1." Right? You have that. Right? When do you get a sense that I got a ohm dollar? What makes me? I have my own way, by the way. I do it in my own way. When I do certain things, I say, I feel pretty good. I did that. I did not get paid in that. I did not get paid in TD. I said, but I earned an amazing OD. And I wake up and my life, a big part of my life is OD. So I'm a little bit more accustomed to that, or maybe into that sort of addiction. But I think it's a question to ask whenever because life is a balance. And all of us, by the way, all of us have an element. We talk about Bhagavad Gita and the greater good. Each one of us have an index of greater good and Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita means the qualities, the human qualities. And what we are saying is, let's talk more so both our indices go up. We want to drive our DD index and the BG index up. That's why all the brains and all the scholars and all the faculties will get together and discuss these topics. That's the whole idea. Okay, next please.
What are landlord and technologies about?
This is we are all
directors, management, and volunteers, and also scholars. I don't understand these.
Okay, so we showed the organization chart where people are filling different boxes. Some people are board of directors, and some people are managing. HCI, in our HCI.
No, I thought these are all referring to HCI.
Huh? These are human beings who are acting today as directors or managers or volunteers. Landlord is the person who has given us this free for ohm dollars. We are paying the landlord in ohm dollars. Mr. Ram Reddy is giving me technical support that would have cost me over $100,000 probably. I pay him in ohm dollars.
Oh, somebody gave us this land.
Yeah, somebody gave us this.
That's what it is. And then the scholar, you are going to give us knowledge and energy to make this program successful. So we are already putting you on the ohm dollar list for that. And so I went to a restaurant today, this Amber restaurant. I was there, and they said, "Vaishnav, you're starting the school today?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Please take some laddus." I said, "Okay, but I want to pay you." No. I said, "Okay, I'm going to pay in ohm dollars." So I paid them $50, whatever it was. And they said, "Oh my God, such a blessing." So I got laddu for all of us. Ram Garu, where are those laddus? We're not going to be not in the class. We get them at the break time. So we brought some traditional laddus. We got them on ohm dollars. Okay, I made some photographs. Vijay, I know him. I said, "Vijay, get the photograph done for us." He said, "I just send me the invoice by yourself. Please do not insult me. This is my duty." Ohm dollars. So everywhere we are going, no faculty is asking for money. They're getting ohm dollars. So what I'm saying to you is we have a very good business going on here. We know how to create infinite amount of ohm dollars. And if people like them, we can get infinite amount of work done. Is that become clear now? Does the laddu make it clear to you? You can have real laddu that we paid in ohm dollars. And I did not have to spend it from HCI.
Only my concern is one has to be careful where you get your own dollars exchanged also, right? There might be other obligations you might create yourself or ourselves.
Yeah, I think good point. Good point.
Not just because somebody's offering us, I can offer to give them own dollars and be obligated for things that I'm not.
Oh yeah, my God, that's a very good point. No, no way, Jose. We can't do that because ohm dollars. The beauty of ohm dollars is you have to get real dollars that the board of directors has to know. Yeah. Why is the money coming into this organization? Who is the payer? And what is the intention? That is what the board is for. So that is the guardrail. Yeah. For the other kind of dollars like rent and mithai and all that stuff, you know. Okay, but yeah, sure, we have to be cautious. Okay, let's go to the next one, please. A lot of time spent on these ohm dollars, but it's worth it. Okay. Satish, how am I late or? No, from where I started. No, you have to give me my full due. Huh? Okay. Okay. Performance model, by the way, like a corporation, we're going to perform each other's on an honor system. I will tell everybody how I'm performing honestly. We're going to have our board meeting. We're going to discuss that. It'll be a very open discussion. Let's go, please. Okay, so here is our basic platform. So with the programs we're going to create for our community in the next year or so. Lata, you're okay? Okay. By the way, devices are not allowed to be seen. I'm sorry. This class, we don't want to see devices. Please put them on. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't think it's a good idea. Okay. Please. Okay. All right. So here we are on the platform. We have a CHT. We're going to hear much more about that soon from both Gaurav and Satish, the council program. For that, we're also going to have a whole bunch of support. When you go in the field as the CHT is qualified, you will be supported by what we call a first one is the sanskar management system, software system that tells people how to manage sanskaras from birth to death. We have a senior mentor, like in India, we have old uncles. When you have a problem, you go to them. We're going to create a uncle kind of group here in the valley, 100 people or so who are highly accomplished, who have knowledge of all different fields, so that you can go. When you have a difficult problem, you can go to them. So that pool is going to be developed. We already began. We're going to have a book collection for young people that fit the Silicon Valley children and older people, not the old Indian books. We can get them here, but there's certain adaptation required. We're working on that. We're going to have a distinguished lecture series starting next year, September. And then we're going to have a heritage tour program, an NGO immersion program in 2020, where we'll have qualified places in India and maybe Fiji and maybe Cambodia, wherever our heritages are, to have young people and people can go and visit and be treated safely and learn something out of it. So we have these, but we will change them. We'll add more as you come in, others come in and bring ideas. So this is this is our starting point of what we think we should do, but we can change things. Okay, next. Okay, this is going to be a quiz. We're going to tell you, remember all these things. I'm just kidding. Just to tell you that we are creating a university, and all these are the manual of how the university will operate. Every aspect, there's about 40 different dimensions that I've been personally engaged in. We're going to complete all these so that people, if I'm out, somebody else comes in, they know what to do. So just keep going. Next 3 slides. And we have different people contributing to different parts of this, the managed responsibilities. And the next one is a governance, please. Yeah, for governance, for example, we have bylaws, we have governmental rules, we have board members, code of conduct. All these are things that make us a responsible organization, not a mom and pop shop, and that can be, have a long-term longevity as organization. Okay. Our aspirations are to become, as I told you before, the Harvard of the community surveys, accredited as a university. We're going to have world-class faculty. You'll see many of them coming in over the next 6 months. Be deep bench of leadership, very important. We're going to have, for example, I'd like to be replaced by some dynamic person, much younger than me, as soon as possible. But I have to work on making that happen. So we'll have in different positions, we'll have the bench of leadership. Financial sufficiency, I talked about that. For 5 years, we want to have enough money. And hopefully someday we'll have our own facility as an institution. And at the end of the day, we want to make it a pride of the greater Bay Area community. So, and basically, I think the final thing is that I think it's a great opportunity for all of us. I think it's a 3-legged stool. Scholars, you are one of the legs. Faculty is the second leg. And the rest of us who try to fix the projector and the screen and bring the laddus and all that stuff, management, 3 of us can make it happen, but everybody has to pull the weight and make their contribution. And I think it will be a great model for the future. And if we can do collective learning, innovate, and work on the pride. And I thank you very much. That's my story. And I think I probably went long. Okay. Thank you. So, Gaurav?
Yes, I need to put Gaurav on.
Gaurav, by the way, extraordinary contributor. Unfortunately, he's not here. He had to be in India. But much of what you're seeing, he has put his signature on, and I'm very proud of him. Gaurav Rastogi. Gaurav?
Thank you.
Can
you hear me in the room?
Gaurav, we can hear you.
Can you see his face?
But I need to put your...
Yeah, the Zoom camera, sure.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Let me also share my screen so you might be able to see better. Give me a second. Okay, can you stop sharing and I will share.
Oh, there.
So we see you, but we don't see your screen yet. Okay, now we see both.
Namaskar, I'm Gaurav Rastogi in person or on video, as the case might be. Happy to be here. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the context of why, what we're doing, and give you a little sense of why the community at large and the Hindu community in particular needs the CHT program. So I'm going to talk to you in the next few minutes and show you that. So the first thing that you need to notice is that, let me just move the video away. Okay, do you see me? One second. Okay, this should be better. All right. Are you able to see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So the first thing is the demographics of the people. And in the room, in the area, just one second. Actually, do you want to just mute your Zoom screen? Or the HCI Zoom in the...
Yeah. Gaurav, hold on a second, please.
Yeah, sure. There's some echo. Wonderful. Right. Thank you. All right, good. This should help. So in the Bay Area, there are just a few trends that we'd like to highlight, and which will be good pointers to what's happening across the community, across the world. But we're fixing, or we're trying to solve a problem which is uniquely just for us. And for the folks in LA, the same numbers broadly hold. The conclusions will certainly hold across. So the first thing is, in the Bay Area, you're seeing that Hindus are now more than 10% in 6 or more cities in the Bay Area. So very clearly, a process of mainstreaming is going on. Just like with the Irish Americans, the Germans, the Italians, the Polish, people who came in waves and were soon included into their American identity. And you no longer see them as, well, Irish American or German American as much as, well, they're just American. That type of mainstreaming is going on. And it's well underway for Hindus in some of the larger cities where, you know, people of Hindu ethnicity or background are, there's an echo. Actually, you might have to mute all the mics in the room. Yeah. The HCI mic on Zoom needs to be muted. Sorry. Just one second.
No, not one. No. I think he was fine. Oh, there was an echo.
No, actually, no, we can hear you in the room, and we should not be able to hear you when I'm talking, because otherwise the room here picks up my own voice. So you have to go to Zoom and just go to the Hindu Community Institute Zoom window and mute yourself. Just like everyone else. Thank you. Wonderful. All right, so this should cut out the Zoom. So the first conclusion is, looking at the demographics, is mainstreaming is well underway. And this is happening in more cities across America. But that mainstreaming comes at a prior cost of assembling into oblivion. So that's one thing to note. All right, next thing is the Hindu population in general skews younger compared to the overall population by a 5 to 10 year period. What that means is the issues faced by the Hindu populations. For example, if you're looking at the 45 to 64 bar, and this is Census Bureau data, by the way, you see that the Hindus are lesser represented as a percentage, more in the 25 to 44. It should be pretty obvious why. A lot of people coming in as tech workers, so much younger population. And the needs of this population are different across life stages. And that's the one thing to take away. The next thing is, Hindus are not poorly represented institutionally. There are 70 plus institutions in the Bay Area itself. Every week there's an announcement of a new temple being opened or something like that. So clearly there is adequate institutional presence. There are volunteer organizations, there are Indian outfits, there is a lot of organizational support available, but it turns out the penetration is poor. There is low utilization and engagement. Our estimate is between 20% to a third of the population is served by the temples, the institutions, the samsthans and sampradayas. And the remainder are Hindus in name only, in the sense that they're Hindus because their ancestry is Hindu, but they're not going to a temple because Hinduism doesn't require you to go to a temple. You can practice entirely in your own heart. And so they're not reached by the current institutional frameworks, which means these people are not able to access all the rest of the community benefits that a community traditionally has. And I will talk about those in a second. Now, why is this interesting? It's interesting because if you compare to a community which is very similar to ours, right next door, you will see the difference. Now, there's a lot to learn from the Jewish mainstreaming practices. By way of population, Hindu and Jewish populations are similar in education. So in the Bay Area, 4% are Jewish, 3% are Hindu. Family incomes are similar, and Hindus might be a little more affluent and definitely a lot more educated than the Jewish population. But even given the similarity in size and scale, the mainstreaming Jewish populations have mainstreamed but have not lost their tradition and identity. So if you compare, say, the Irish people and the German people to the Jewish people, you don't know who's Irish American as much anymore because, 5-6 generations out, it's mingled away. But Jewish people, you know who they are because their traditions are kept alive. And the Jewish people have a lot to teach us, and we have a lot to learn from them and other communities where they have passed on tradition from generation to generation. And of course, the Jewish people have been in the diaspora business for a much longer, many thousands of years. So they've established practices to convey tradition, which is what we're doing as well. As the CHT program, we're finding out how to convey our tradition across generations and learning from the Jewish example wherever possible. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say. The next thing I want to talk to you about, summing this up, of course, to do this requires us to collaborate, cooperate, and innovate. Because clearly, building more temples is great, and by all means, we can do that. But each temple reaches maybe 300 to 500 families. What's important is to find things that can scale, ways we can reach underserved parts of the community, not just Hindu, but all community. How do we find ways that are institutionally rich and strong? And that requires innovation. Good news, we're in Silicon Valley, we should know a thing or two about innovation. So what we want to do is approach this whole thing with an open heart and seek to innovate and cooperate with all the organizations. And which is why this room, it represents a lot of people from a lot of sampradayas, because that's what we want, collaboration and cooperation. All right, now we're not just interested in the Hindu population. The Hindu population is a part of the people we're interested in. There are also, because of the interest in yoga and bhakti yoga, there are a lot of yogis that are interested in learning from our traditions when we should speak to them. There are Vedic people, people who are interested in Sanatan Dharma, that are interested in us. And there are spiritual but not religious people that in the census would be called the nuns. They don't classify as any particular religion, N-O-N-E, none. So these people are very actively interested in learning from the Hindu tradition because since the 60s, people know that there's something interesting going on in India in terms of spiritual richness, and they want a part of that. So people are curious, and we want to reach out to this wider community. We reckon there are at least 300,000 such people that we can serve in the Bay Area alone. And if you include all of California, much wider. If you include all of the United States, even wider. And if you include the rest of the world, you can imagine what the numbers are. Clearly, lots to work on. We're focused only on the Bay Area. Now the challenge that we are solving, I'm going to change track a little, is talk to you about how the society serves the individual's spiritual needs. Now, the Judeo-Christian society, most of the Western world is designed around this sort of this Western model, which is a Judeo-Christian society where the needs of an individual, individual spiritual needs are closely organized and handled by a very coherent framework. For example, the person who does your prayers is also the person who on Sundays gives you a sermon, is also a person who you can reach to with a confidential question. If you have concerns or turmoil in your heart, you can talk to this person, and they can also minister to your needs. Ministering as in caring for, looking after your spiritual needs. The person with the collar, the priest, their job in the Catholic system, as well as in the other Christian denominations, is very closely aligned around all these four, which is why the word religion tends to include all four of these senses in the Western model, where the person who prays is also the person who's giving sermons and clarifying on scriptural issues, as well as your personal confidential conversation teacher, and someone who can tend to your spiritual needs, very tightly aligned. However, the society the Hindus come from is very different. The Hindu society is not centrally organized, and the community, your uncle, my aunt, my neighbor, everyone who's nosy, everyone's interested in my upkeep, and everyone's interested in my business. And so what happens is we go to the temple, but we do not expect the temple to be our Shastri. Our spiritual masters and guides may not be affiliated with the temple. They're different people. And then, of course, for confidential issues, we go to our uncle, our aunt, our neighbors gives us advice, our panwala, the horoscope guy, the astrologer. All these people can give us advice on confidential issues. And for spiritual needs, spiritual crises, we go to a guru. Now, many different people play many different roles in the traditional Hindu society. This society, I will compare back with the Western society, is very different. And if you insert Hindus, which are used to this system, this definition of dharma, which is a cultural, religious, political framework, into a Western model, then what happens is you're only left with the temple and other needs are not served. And therefore, this model cannot be replicated in the Western diaspora because we live in a different society. The CHTs fill this gap. We fill the gap where we can serve every individual's spiritual needs. But what are those needs? Those needs are here. We looked at individual experiences on the y-axis. If you're tracking my arrow, you'll see that on the vertical line is the individual experiences. And on the horizontal line are family experiences, what people together experience as a family. And you're seeing the full spectrum of pre-birth and post-death traditions and samskaras, as well as the widest variety of issues that go on. For example, loneliness is a highly experienced issue, health, aging, disputes, guilt, bereavement, but also happy things like birth, graduation, marriages, and so on. All of these are emotionally intense situations. And here, individuals and families have a need for counseling in what the tradition does. Now, the tradition's job, in Sanskrit it is said, dharmo rakshati rakshita. Those that preserve tradition are preserved in return by the tradition. It is the tradition's job to serve us and make these experiences richer and more solemn, depending on what the situation is. And that need is not being serviced in a society that expects a tightly organized system. By the way, the Western society is feeling a breakdown in this model as well, where people don't go to churches as well, and also have a spiritual gap in their outlook. And those people also we are happy to serve. But the overall message is that the individual and our families have a wide range of needs that require spiritual and traditional help, and that can be mediated through the counselors of Hindu tradition, and which is why this program is being set up and we're setting everything in place. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'll pass this mic back to Satishji. Akshayji, you may please unmute yourself and please change the slide.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Gaurav.
I need to change the view. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's take the next few minutes just to do a brief introduction by each one of you about yourself. I want to just keep it very brief, just talk about who you are and what organization. The rest of it we'll do later on, which we'll do as part of a good discussion. But I just want to let you know that all of us at HCI are very, very impressed with the caliber of scholars that have joined in. I believe we have 5 masters, 3 PhDs, and the rest are all at least bachelors. So it is a very, very impressive set of individuals that are
Great background, great experience.
great, and all different sampradayas. But I think it will be a great opportunity together once the training is all finished for you to go back to the community and give that wisdom back to them. So we can just start from this side and just take probably 15 seconds, talk about who you are in the organization. From
Yoga Bharati.
I'm Manju. I'm from the institution Special Vidya. I'm Kaveri from Australia. I'm Rajiv Rayasam. I'm from the Yoga Bharati.
My name is Ganapati, and I'm an individual. I don't have an organization.
You will soon.
Thank you. Are you there from the I am Manu, and I am from Bangalore.
I'm Lata.
Not right. I'm associated with. My name is
Could everyone hear him? I couldn't.
I'm Vedant Gandhi, and I've been investigating news for a very, very long time. And I like to respect whatever education I have, of course, have in my own part of my little activity here and there, reading books, talking to people, hearing them say things. That's the extent of my knowledge, but I would like to read quite a lot. And I also practice yoga on a regular basis, and maybe so on and so forth. And that's about wonderful of my life.
Thank you.
My name is Kumbhesh Jain. I volunteer at the Livermore Temple, worked with their seniors group for years, and practice yoga and teach yoga at the temple. And so that's been my associate and religious, rites or religious on here.
I'm Jay Patel. I'm
Thank
Call
you.
the people in MA and
Sorry?
MA.
Oh, are we able to hear the people in LA or Sacramento?
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
This is Lata Vasan from LA.
And which organization are you with?
With Vyasa, LA, Yoga Institute.
Yoga.
Sita ji, Jana ji, could you unmute yourself and introduce?
Hello.
Yeah, if you go to Zoom, you'll be able to unmute.
Everybody. My name is Sita. I'm interested in Indian. I've been associated for many years with Chinmaya Mission.
Jana ji, thank you, Sita ji.
Yeah, this is Jana. I'm with Lata also. We volunteer at the teaching yoga in the local community. I'm from LA too.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Pranay ji?
Is Anjana on the line? Anjana?
Yeah, we're getting to her. Yeah, Pranay ji, you want to introduce yourself? And I'm just going down the list.
Hi, I'm Pranay Bahuguna. I'm here in Sacramento, and we'll be trying to build a local chapter and a following here too. So thank you.
Adya? All right. Anjana ji? Anjana ji, are you able to unmute yourself on the phone? All right, we'll carry on. Satish ji, back to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that brief introduction. It is impressive, and it is interesting enough. It represents different aspects of the community. They're all kind of different backgrounds, from the spiritual side to the community service side. And I think that will help us together, working with you in trying to serve the community back. So now that Vijay ji has covered, Kailash has covered the HCI background, Gaurav ji has covered the needs of the community compared to the Jewish community, which, by the way, we can use as a model, not just in this, but in other things of HCI that we're going to do. One of the things you'll hear later on, and I think Kailash referred to it, is the children's books area. And that's where Vara Ramakrishnan is working on developing things that, for example, in the Jewish community, as kids are born to when they are 3 months old, 6 months old, year-old, they get a package of books and videos. We want to try and model something like that for our own Hindu community. Wouldn't it be wonderful that if the kids right from the beginning got something was interesting also to look at with all the videos and the high-tech stuff that and colorful that is used now to build our traditions there. Let me just go on to my.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, let's just go on to these slides. There are a couple of major needs in the Hindu community that we saw as part of our discussion about HCI and the program for the CHT. Number one, I think Gaurav ji referred to the Christian Jewish community who have a chaplain, rabbi. Hindus have nobody central to go to when there's something important that comes up, something that is a crisis in their lives, sick person in the hospital. I've talked to the chaplain, for example, at Washington Hospital, and I asked him point blank, I said, what do you do when you get a patient that is a Hindu? He says, I really don't have anybody that I can go to come and help me with that. There's Dr. Kundan Singh ji that I mentioned earlier, so we'll introduce him later on in the program. He'll be here. And that's one key role that we really can help. You can help once you are trained as counselors to help them that. Secondly, on the colleges, Kailash and I spent some time on the phone with a Dr. Varun Soni, and you'll see a video of him later on. He happens to be the head chaplain at USC. He's a Hindu, but he's a head chaplain. So he does it for all religions. And he said, it would be wonderful if there were more people like me, not necessarily chaplain, but Hindu chaplains across universities. And there are just a handful of people across the country that are in that role. And when kids are at school, they have the parents to guide them if there are issues that come up, whether bullying issues or drugs issues, alcohol issues. At colleges, they're away from the parents, most of them, unless they're living at home. Issues come up, they have nobody there to guide them. And that's where this role of CHT can be very, very valuable. The other point I want to make is this really fills the gap in terms of competency between the pure knowledge. So the priest can help with the pure knowledge of the spirituality part, but applying that to real life needs, bringing in the counseling needs, bringing in communication skills, which some of our priests lack. And they are very good at the reading of scriptures, but it goes over the head of many of the folks in the community, who unless they have that same kind of deep background. So those are two key major needs that we see in the community, which is why we need the CHT program. So there are different areas that the CHTs are going to serve. So the families one, really as representatives of your sampradayas or even as individuals, you're going to go help the families with preparing for life events, whether that is when somebody is born or somebody is graduating or somebody is close to their deathbed. Outreaching also new families, mentioned with childbirth. Spiritual support for families at different times of need. Counseling during the crisis as they're required. And again, the counseling is more than just the reading them the scriptures. It is actually helping them with, and this is where we'll get into, there are different programs to give you more training on the counseling part, including bedside manners and how to handle crisis with individuals, and representing the richness of our traditions. Schools and colleges, I mentioned briefly about addressing drug and alcohol issues, bullying issues at schools, helping the teachers with what the Hindu philosophy is, what the Hindu traditions are, and then also recommending some books on Hindu tradition. And many of the schools really don't have enough knowledge to go back on. And part of it is trying to get unity among the Hindu community in terms of what are the relevant books or videos that can be used in schools. Hospitals, healthcare, and hospices, again, periodic visits and have a central call-in number. So the hospitals can then call somebody and say, can you send somebody for this, please? I have a Hindu patient here who needs some help. And making sure, again, the hospital practices, the Hindu norms become part of their processes. There is another organization we are working with, which is doing some very good work on the Hindu funeral functions, because many of the funeral homes are not really equipped for how to handle cremations for Hindus. So they are doing very good work on that, and we want to try and build up on that. And again, doing spiritual counseling at senior homes. Our idea then is later on to have a call-in number for CHT services that all of our agencies could have, the police could have, the 911 numbers could have. And then we also do some periodic outreach on issues that pertain to the Hindu community. And I intend later on is to actually have a website with frequently asked questions and things that one can download. So it makes it a lot easier for the Hindus as well as non-Hindus to be able to get that information. And again, as Kailashi referred earlier, our plan is to not only have the information, but also use of technology so that it is going to be very innovative and very applicable to the community at large. So our vision is to have trained counselors in different cities of Sanskrit Bay Area. Again, our model right now is strictly the Sanskrit Greater Bay Area, but if you do it well, hopefully there'll be other people that will want to do the same thing. Again, with different language skills. We're using English as our common language, but having people that have background in Tamil or Telugu or Kannada or Hindi or Punjabi would be helpful. And I didn't want to omit anybody Gujarati or Marathi. But having that so that one could say, I need a Tamil-speaking CHT in San Jose, one could be able to pick it up and identify at least one person there. Again, CHT will be serving the Hindu community as well as others ask for the support. We're not going to limit ourselves. If somebody asks for it, we cannot say no. We can't be seen as discriminating against anybody out in the community. But most of them are going to be Hindus asking for this at different places, including hospitals, colleges, families, and care facilities. And again, the CHDs, once you go through this 3-semester course, will have knowledge of authentic Hindu spirituality, as well as end-of-life counseling. You will hear from a lot of different counselors, very well-trained professionals in the field. And I think Dr. Kumar Singh will describe some of the classes that will be focusing on those later on. Interfaith marriage also. And also they can direct the community to other resources that are available. We're not expecting you to become experts in estate planning, but for example, if there's somebody in the hospital who hasn't done anything in terms of estate planning, at least be able to say, okay, here is, I can recommend you to the following 2 or 3 people. So I think you actually become quite a value add. As I mentioned in the next bullet, you really become the first responders in a sense. In a non-medical sense, you're the first responders for the Hindu community in any crisis that comes up, whether it is the beginning of somebody's life or at the tail of somebody's life. And again, the other vision is that CHTs are independent, but therefore inclusive of all sampradayas. We are not saying you're only for this sampradaya, you represent everyone. But the fact that you all represent different sampradayas helps us, so when you go back, that becomes helpful to the community and spreads the word around even more. I think some of you have seen these slides before, but I just wanted to reiterate them and also put my perspective on those. I want to tell you about what CHTs do and what they do not do. So number one, they offer a framework for moral, ethical, and spiritual decision making that is based on Dharma as taught in Bhagavad Gita. This is not trying to give their opinion. It is voluntary and there is no cost counseling service. Main thing is you want then the CHT to be listening, thinking with empathy, and providing guidance. It also creates a safe space for conversation without judgment. The intent is not to apply your own judgment to it, but say, with this information, here is where help the person make the decision and provide the guidance to them. But again, they should be able to share that with you in a confidential manner. And again, as I mentioned, you'll have access to others. There are marriage counselors, estate planners, lawyers, psychologists that we will develop as a list for you. Some of them will be actually on the website, it's your website. Some of them we will provide at the end of the training class, at least at the end of the two semesters, you will have an entire list of resources that you can go through. The service will be provided on request, but if some of you establish a personal relationship with a particular family, a particular individual, it is okay for them to do a follow-up visit with you. And you become, therefore, the spokesperson for the community on issues that are being encountered. Now, important enough for this slide is, the key is the next one, which says, what do they do not do? Again, the expectation is not that you're going to do the job of a priest. The priests are there, we are not taking over their role, but you might refer somebody to a priest on a particular ceremony if they want one. And again, while you're there to guide people in terms of who to go to for legal issues or estate planning issues, you're not expected to be experts on those fields. In fact, it becomes very dangerous if you come across as claiming to be experts. You get into liability issues. You got to be very, very careful with that. And the last one is when you have an important life decision, very important not to bring your personal opinion in. You're there to help the individual make that decision. In many cases, it'll be the individual with their family to make that decision, but you're there to provide them the guidance. So this sort of repeats a bit of what we talked
We
about
already
earlier.
sold. You're sold on this one.
So the value of the course again to the individuals is, yeah, we that's the Ashirwad dollars in the first one. It's a way of giving back to society, and it becomes your pathway of continuous studies of the tradition. And again, the fact that you're together, now you're going to form a community, you have a network of your own, and in situations where you may need somebody else's input, you will have each other's contacts to follow up. You'll be a graduating class that will be benefiting from, will become the class of 2018, 2019. And again, to the sampradayas that most of you represent, you will be helpful in going back to the sampradayas and helping serve the community. In fact, that was one of our key expectations, that those that come from sampradayas, we are providing the training for free, but we wanted each one of you to at least commit to working that sampradaya, giving back community for at least a year, hopefully longer. It then also gives improved outreach, both wider and deeper, and hopefully helps sampradayas connect with each other. Just like you're here together as part of one course, it'll help bring sampradayas closer together and bring the Hindu community closer together. Again, providing everybody have trained and certified CHT services in different situations, different ages. I think Kailashi referred earlier, back home when we grew up, it used to be the society of the elders. Here we want to make it the society of the learned, people that actually have the knowledge. It's not just age. When I look across the room and I see different age groups, and this should not just be about young or old. This should be about people that have the knowledge. So people should respect us for the learning that we have achieved. Yes.
There is a word that is becoming more popular. Recently, there was given an article in Harvard Business Review called "Mentored." You are mentoring to the young, but you are also interning from the young so that you can learn. So the learning is happening. So you are a modern elder, where you are learning from them what you need to learn and guiding them where you need to. So that kind of a concept of you are a mentor and an intern is something you may want to know.
Yeah, thank you. I think there was one more.
On the screen there. Mainstreaming.
Oh, okay.
Mainstream is
Yeah, so hopefully this will help us mainstream Hinduism to the American society. As CHTs become more and more visible in both hospitals and in colleges and the rest of society and families, that will become very helpful in mainstreaming it to the entire society. Because we as Indians have done very well, as some of the slide before said, in terms of our career, as well as not just high tech, but as doctors and so on. But we have not done much in this area, and that will help. So one of the things I want to just mention briefly is about the skills and the toolkits that we have planned. So the counseling skills that you see on the left side, and that will be done through the sessions over the next 2 semesters. But our plan is then to develop a resource directory that will be available for you.
This
so
I
that
talked
you actually
about,
have a list of
the value proposition, they're all listed there.
Correct.
Same value proposition.
So that temples and priests, you actually have a network. You have a list of which temples and priests, network of HSCs, the special doctor network, care providers, estate planners, and I think we're going to try and get one estate planner come and talk next spring. Funeral home, crematoriums, as disposal directory. So these will be all resources that will be available to you. And then there'll also be some downloadable material, which is part of our toolkit number 2. So we have all the Hindu calendars, the samskaras, festivals, what music playlist, the recommended books for all ashramas, and then council checklist with templates. So our intention is to equip you with a variety of tools that will be helpful in your serving the community. So after we do this, what else are we trying to do? Number one, we're trying to do also set up a relationship. And Dr. Kundan Singh Ji, who we'll hear from later on, is helping us get this set up so that we can be accredited at some stage But to do that, we have to make sure that all of our lesson plans, all the things we do are set up in a certain manner, and they're all properly archived, which is why you see some of the bios, not because we want them up there, but because they're required as part of the accreditation process. Then you want to set up a relationship with hospitals, universities, funeral homes, police, and prisons, so that all the CHTs can be engaged immediately. And we see some of those names of these different organizations. Right now, they have no idea who to call. So you want to get a stage where they know, yes, we have CHTs, it's part of the Hindu Community Institute, and this is the number we need to call, and a person come in and give them some support. Once we do this, hopefully we do this well, our intention then is to set up a master's program and a PhD program, which will be down the road. Okay, the next slide. So you as individuals have really 3 different models that you can use. Number one, you can continue working with the sampradayas you are
After
with.
certification.
Sorry?
After the certification.
Yeah. After the certification done, to work with each sampradaya. Secondly, you can be with HCI, which will be the default one. And third, you can be totally independent.
There are all the choices.
But again, all that we want to do is help the community out. And you are our vehicles for making that happen.
By the way, suggestion is that we also do that. I think we should take a break now.
Sorry?
Take a break now, and then we come back. Because it's kind of long. Remove the break.
Yeah, okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
So let's take a, can we cut it down to 10 minutes?
Maybe 15. 15.
Okay.
15.
15-minute break.
15. Yes.
Ramji, can you direct them to where the refreshments are? And I think the bathrooms are on this side.
It's already
Ramji is the
clear.
back.
Yeah.
So 15-minute break, we're back at 3.
Take it easy, relax.
Back at 3.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what we are going to do. Without him, you would have been trouble today without him. When with Ian gone,
our community to develop our own internal resources, our own leadership, our own wisdom in the United States. And so that's the work that HCI is doing. It's the work that I've always wanted to see happen. I'm so grateful that they're taking up this critically important work at this time. When we look at other religious communities across the country, religious minority communities across the country, we see that they fully become embraced and embedded in the American landscape. When they start to engage universities and political entities, that's when we start to become part of the fabric of American society. And so I want to see a United States where Hindu counselors and chaplains are serving in the military service, are serving in police academies, are serving in hospitals, and are serving in colleges and universities. Because not only will those counselors and chaplains have the opportunity to support Hindus and Hindu Americans in all that they do, but they also have the extraordinary opportunity to educate non-Hindus about our tradition, not just from the perspective of Western scholarship or colonial scholarship, but from the perspective of the tradition itself, how the tradition has been viewed historically by Hindus, practiced by Hindus, enacted and embraced by Hindus. So I'm really happy to see that so many people have enrolled in the course to start to think about what it means to be a counselor of the Hindu tradition. I want to encourage you to continue along this path. You really push on open doors when you're done, because there is such a need for Hindu representation in the American public sphere. And I look forward to meeting all of you and working with all of you as you enter into this fold. So congratulations to SCI. Good luck to all the students who are on the path to becoming Hindu counselors, and fight on.
We are also trying to see if we can get him here and meet with each one of you live. Experiences. Instantly, he talked about his vision of having somebody in the army. I don't know if you're aware, Pratima Dharma was the first Hindu chaplain in the U.S. Army. And she left that about 3 years ago, and then went to Georgetown, and now is in Southern California. I'm trying to engage with her and see if she can also help share her experience. Share her experience with each of you. With that, if I can introduce Vijay Kapoorji. Many of you already are part of his classes, but he has quite a background, which is I think in the bio, or not up here. Okay.
We can put it up. Give me 1 second.
I'll talk about that.
Okay. All right. Vijay, please.
So.
Can we turn the lights up now?
Yeah, let's do that. Leon, can you please turn the lights on? Since I won't be using any slides. And
I think that you don't want slides, so you can turn the thing off.
I'll turn that off.
Please turn the projector on.
And is this a okay place to stand, or?
The camera?
I think so. Give me 1 second to check. I think this is fine. Let's just start. I can move the camera afterwards. If you could just get a little bit towards the back.
The screen should be blank. What screen is on the projector?
Yeah.
Press twice.
Yeah, this is good.
Thank you. Good.
And this one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My namaste to all of you. Just say my own special prayer. Om Namaste Bhagavate Shreshwaraya Mahadevaya Triambakaya Purantakaya Kalagni Kalaya Kalagni Rudraya Nilakantaya Mrityunjayaya Sarveshwaraya Sadashivaya Sriman Mahadevaya Namaha. Very happy to spend a few minutes giving the perspective of Hinduism that I've been very fortunate to get. I was born in Hindu, of course, in Amritsar, and my grandparent was actually a Arya Samaj teacher, and he was very popular in the whole city. And the only person that he was very disappointed in was myself, because did not get much out of his efforts to teach me the fundamentals of Hinduism. And the first half of my life, when I came to this country, was spent in a vague understanding of our samskaras and our culture and so on, and perhaps some skepticism as well. I think that the only thing that I had a distant respect for to be studied later was the Bhagavad Gita, which I tried to do a couple of times when I was in my early 30s, but didn't get that much out of it. So two things happened in my life that really changed my perspective on Hinduism. So the first one was academic. And this is the only academic exposure to Hinduism that I had. After that, it became personal. So the academic exposure was that when I was working for IBM as a hardware engineer, so I have two master's degrees. One is computer science from Berkeley, and the other one is a master's in business administration, MBA. And I was working for IBM as a hardware engineer, and had married and a couple of children, and was so-called successful. But I was not very happy about myself. I don't know why. Something was gnawing at me. Something was not, but I didn't know what else to do. You just carry on and so on. And the first thing that I got exposure to academically, which made a very interesting impression on me, which I have not studied since then, is the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. That was an amazing book. And what it did for me was that it showed me that the view of life as it is very fixed, everything is real and so on and so forth, is not necessarily so. And he did that in a language that appealed to me, because he talked about Yukteswara living for 200, 300, 400 years, which is beyond my understanding. How can anybody live for 200, 300 years? But he did that in a language which was very convincing to me. It was as an engineer talking, because I said this person has no reason to exaggerate. So that shook my ideas about the world, and also gave me some hope that perhaps that I need to do something else other than just, raising a family, going to parties and so on. There's something else that I need to look into. And as Ishvara had it, this time my exposure to Hinduism became very personal. And I was very fortunate to listen to Swami Chinmayanandaji, 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the Lone Mountain College, which is no longer called that, in the June of 1973. I was transfixed. I mean, that Gita Jnana Yajna just for one week just changed my life. And I got a glimpse of what he was talking about very clearly. Okay. And I stayed with Swamiji for 2 years, became his student, went to all of his lectures and Gita and Jnana Yajnas and so on. And he made me into a mumukshu. As you know, the meaning of the word mumukshu is sannanta in Sanskritam, called moktumichu, one who really wants to understand how to gain moksha. But then something else happened in my life which was even more significant. After 2 years of staying with Swami Chinmayanandaji, I met my ultimate guru, Swami Dayananda Saraswati. And the reason why that was so significant to me was because he changed the mumuksha, the desire to be free, into jignasa, jnatumichha. And so what that means in simple terms, and we'll, by the way, talk a little bit more about that when we have this 4-hour session on the 21st of October. And I just talked to Prasad Kaipa and Kailashji, just for your information, he'll be back for that. So both of us will be conducting that course on that day. So we'll have some more time to discuss this, but I just want to give you a glimpse of it. What Jigyasa means, as apart from mumuksha, is that the freedom that one seeks is something that you can learn. So, you know, the concept of Mahatma sitting in a cave with something, ideas that you get inspired from him, but it doesn't do much other than the fact that you feel, wow, what a wonderful person this is not entirely necessary. You can, in fact, systematically learn being mumuksha. That took me a while, and once that happened, I said, this is my guru. It changed my life to an extent. My whole family was not very happy about it. I left, by that time, by the way, I was working for Hewlett-Packard as a marketing engineer, marketing manager. And in the year of 1976, I announced to my family, much to their consternation, that I want to study this full time in an ashram for 2.5 years with Swamiji. And my parents came all the way from India. In those days, you know, we didn't have much money, just to dissuade me. Like, come on, you can. And I said, you know, I'll be back at work, but I want to get a thorough introduction to Vedanta, which I did. So we studied Vedanta for 2.5 years, including a very in-depth introduction to Sanskritam with Panini, and the entire Prasthanatraya, which, as you know, is the 10 Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and 4 sutras of Brahma Sutra, Chatushtrutri. This we did and a number of other ancillary texts and so on and so forth, Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, etc., etc. That was more intense than the 2 other master's programs that I was working with. And it was also extremely enjoyable. And I now had a base and a fundamental, which was very personal to me. This is something that was not, all this time, this is not academic. The only academic was the Paramahansa's book that I read. After that, it was really, how does it affect me as a growth of a person? And of course, one of the things that we were all recommended is that one of the things you should do is to also share it with others, to teach it, because teaching requires a lot of rigor and a lot of detail. And your own mind can fool you. You can feel, oh, you know, I know all of this. But you look around to these faces of the students, and if they're sort of not sure, then you know that I need to work harder. And the preparation for my classes actually takes as much time as the actual teaching itself. I'm extremely happy that once I took early retirement in the year almost 2000 from HP, I started teaching more rigorously. I was already teaching before, and now I have 3 classes a week, actually right here in this classroom. Very happy about the arrangement that Kailash ji and JP had provided for us. It's a beautiful setup. We have already started to build a library here. And so we have several, each of the classes are pretty full, 3 classes. And I have about 150 students who are following the teaching and so on and so forth. Now, in terms of the perspective of Hinduism, that forms the core of sharing it with the community, affecting their lives, and also getting fulfilled yourself is very beautiful. Just amazing. And I don't find there is anything like that I could have done. And the more you study, the more you get exposure to the very fundamentals of the Vedic thought. What it does for you, by the way, is instead of looking at it the future, you can actually look at it today, every day, and how it makes the progress. And I'll finish my talk in just a couple of more minutes, but this progress of the human being is likened by Adi Shankara. It's a very beautiful, I forget the verse that he has in Sanskritam, but I'll just give you the English translation of that. And he said, if you're trying to reach a goal, and of course, all of us have a goal of to be totally happy, unconditionally happy without anything. But if you're trying to reach this goal, it is not as though you have to finally reach to gain the advantage. Let's say you're going to Los Angeles. Now, you really want to be in Los Angeles, but until you get there, you don't have any gain. Now, the reaching of the goal of self-fulfillment, which is really the reaching of the understanding of Parameshwara, they're all the same, absolutely the same thing, is not like that. It is not like you are not gaining at the end. It is more like eating. These are Adi Shankara's words. What he says is that suppose you are so hungry that you are going to eat 4 chapatis. Now, you start eating 1 chapati, your hunger is already 1/4 gone. You eat 2 chapatis, your hunger is now gone, half of it. So it is not as though the payoff will come at the end. As you progress in life, the payoff comes. These kinds of examples, teaching was so useful. So the end, what has it done for me personally? What has Hinduism done for me personally? It is very simple. What Hinduism teaches is that any dependency is dukkha. Any independence is sukha. And in my life, I find I have less dependencies. I am happy by myself. Not all the way yet. I'm still working on it. But like eating, I can see the progress. I don't need to do things. I don't need to go to movies. I don't need to read new books. I'm happy the way I am. And if I can continue doing this, this is moksha. This is the core of Hinduism, which is just remarkable. It is not a commentary on other religions or other religions, nothing to do with that. Everybody is doing that. But I'm just telling you that in our tradition, in our background of the Vedic knowledge and so on, it is complete, it is full. It is nothing like that.
Okay. Oh, Prasad, did you want to say? Okay. Yes. Dr. Prasad Kaikar, want to add some comments?
Interestingly, my journey was in some respects contrast to Vijay Kapoorji. I studied from a Sanskrit teacher for first 20 years. My father refused if I wanted to learn Hindi as a second language or even my mother tongue Telugu as a second language. I was completely refused. I was told I have to study only Sanskrit and I have to study while I'm doing my regular schooling. I have to also go to a Sanskrit teacher and learn what all I need to learn. And I rebelled. I ran away from it as far as possible. Of course, I went into physics because I wanted to understand the nature of reality as it exists. So I became a PhD in physics. I was a professor of physics, came to Apple Computer, and I was a fellow at Apple looking at future directions, and bam, the reality hits. Because we are supposed to design tools that augment human intelligence based on how people think, how people learn, how people create, how people communicate, how people collaborate. These are the 5 things we defined as intelligence. So I go around studying with Nobel laureates, extraordinary people around the world who are highly accomplished. One in Israel and one in Bulgaria, one Ruben Feuerstein, who was an extraordinary capable person in autism, working with Down syndrome kids, and another person who works on super learning, one Bulgarian. Both of them, in short, what they told me is, you know, you have learned all this basic stuff. You're going around, because at that time I had just finished 3 weeks in the brain research. I was in the operating theaters of brain surgeons and looking at how the brain works, where is the motivation, intention, retention, all of that. And I was so proud that, you know, I could talk a lot about how the brain works. But these 2 guys told me, you learned the ultimate in some respects from Hinduism or the Indian philosophy. And now you're so happy trying to understand about the brain. At that time, 30 years ago or 25 years ago, there was non-invasive techniques were not available. All what we had to learn was studying sick people who were having a brain tumor as they were being operated. What are we learning about them and how do we probe? So he said, you are so happy with something which is really limited while you could look at it. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, all what I do with Down syndrome kids, and same thing in the Bulgarian gentleman, Lazanov, he said, all I did on super learning, the language, now you must have Duolingo or many of the techniques that you are using, the immersion learning methodology, he has developed. All of that, he said, is based on Indian philosophy. One from Yoga Sutras, and another from the what you call theory of knowledge, the Tarka Shastra, the methods of knowledge. And they told me, these are the 2 things. We only know a few principles. Out of that, we developed all this. You have learned all that, and you are jumping around as if you know so much, saying, I have done the brain, I am a fellow at Apple, I'm doing this. You know, isn't that stupid how easy it is that you are satisfied? So I came back and resigned from Apple. And interestingly, while coming back, the connection was that Steve Jobs had given a copy for some of us, Autobiography of a Yogi. He had told that he reads every year, but you know, hey, I'm an Indian. I don't need to read Autobiography of a Yogi. You know, you guys who are non-Indians, who are non-Hindu people have to do all this. We don't need to do this. This came part of our, you see the arrogance, that's what it was. But then I read it again, while coming back, and I came back. Once that I read it, it became very clear. I resigned from Apple, and I thought I will do what I need to do in integrating these 2, Indian Vedanta, Indian philosophy, not just the Vedanta, the Hinduism, the tenets and all of it into practicality. So my job has been from 1990, how do I integrate Indian philosophy along with what you might call the brain research and modern management methodologies, various things into both individuals and organizations. So I'm a practical philosopher, but everything that I brought in for past 30 years, the books which I wrote, programs that I do with senior executives, all of them, is about application of Hinduism into bringing comparative approaches, scientific approaches, and practical approaches on how you can be a better human being, better leader, better executive, better, you know, spouse, better parents in that respect. So what we are going to do, you know, Vijay Kapoorji and myself, we are going to play a kind of a dance in some respects in whatever we are presenting. Plus, in the HCI, whatever role as a, you know, way in which we need to bring in the academic aspects of it, we're going to bring in that integration, because as CHT, when you complete, it is not about you becoming experts in Hinduism, but how do you really bring it into communities so that we can create a Hindu center at some level so that you can help the essence, the tattva as they call it. The essence of the tattva has to be communicated. Obviously, the colors have changed, the words of language has changed, the times have changed. As a diaspora, even the context has changed. But the essence of what it means to be, like fundamentally, I mean, we'll elaborate on 21st when Vijay does it. Hold on for a minute. then in that particular one, what it comes down to is 3 questions. Who am I? What is this world and who are the other people who represent? And what is my connection to something larger than myself? So we will actually, as we go into, we will begin with those and bring in various aspects of it so that rest of what you do in CHT will fall in place from the perspectives of how does knowing myself, like he said, that idea of as I'm eating, I'm actually getting satisfied. How do I actually, as I go through this semester, as I go through several weeks, whatever I'm learning, how can I actually begin to contribute to the community? This is actually something that you can begin to learn, spread, communicate together as a scholar, as a faculty. That's what we are planning to do. And you will get a lot more of it as you go forward. But just that we should give a flavor from it.
Thank you, sir. Now, if I can ask Dr. Kunal Singh Ji to come up and give us an orientation to the course. So you go through the various sessions that are planned. And as I mentioned, with the work he's doing, he's trying to make sure that we are properly set up with the lesson plan, with the flow for accreditation down the road. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you everyone for coming and giving me this opportunity to introduce the syllabus. At this point in time, I'm going to say something which I hadn't planned actually, and I got inspired by Vijayji and Prasad Kaikaji. As I was hearing them talk, it reminded me of my own journey. When I was in high school, very unconsciously, I wanted to become a theoretical physicist. That was the drive. And at that point in time, this I'm talking about 1989, that reveals you my age. Theoretical physics was only offered at one of the IITs, if not more. And it so happened that I did not qualify that particular exam. But I did qualify at a couple of very good engineering institutes. I won't reveal their names, but I didn't join engineering. I came to Delhi University and started studying chemistry. And at that point in time, I got heavily attracted towards philosophy of science. One of the turning points in my life was these 2 books by Fritjof Capra, The Tao of Physics and The Turning Point. And then, I started reading philosophers of science, Thomas Kuhn, Paul Feyerabend, and so on and so on. I finished my bachelor's in chemistry. And at that point in time, I was encountering some existential issues. So I thought that maybe psychology, Western psychology, would help me understand my issues deeply. So I decided to study my master's in applied psychology, which I did. Now, interestingly, but by the time I was 1 year into the program, I realized that there was something drastically missing in Western psychology. It was almost as if my soul was not getting nurtured. And as a part of that process, I wrote my thesis for my master's titled Critical and Basic Issues in Psychology. So towards the end of my study, towards the end of my master's in applied psychology, I sort of had a very clear understanding of what kind of psychology I did not want. But what I wanted, that was going to unfold later. That happened. It took about 3 years. I found my guru in Sri Aurobindo. I should say guru is Sri Aurobindo, my mother. But in that journey, autobiography of a yogi played a very important role. It was life transforming. One of the things which the book does for you is that it tells you that there is a reality much beyond what is manifest. And that reality is worth exploring. And that can be explored. That can be explored in a scientific manner, philosophical manner, existential manner, and also through a methodology which transcends and includes them all. It has its own way, its own methodology of conducting that exploration. And of course, the very fact that Paramahansa Yogananda, when he left his body here in Los Angeles many years ago, his body for the next 21 or 22 days did not undergo rigor mortis. It remained as fresh as ever. So there is this reality to what is manifest. And I think most of the people who will be teaching here have that kind of an orientation. The pursuit may have brought us into Hinduism from many different paths, many different ways. We may have different takes on them as well. But one thing is very certain. It won't be faith-based. And you will also find that people will not be approaching this discipline from an ossified manner without having the flexibility of heart and mind. That becomes extremely important. So having said that, I just want to continue with the orientation which we are undergoing at this point in time. Kailash has already introduced to you the vision and mission of HCI. Satish has explained to you how counseling in Hindu tradition actually fits into the larger canopy of this institution. And now I'm coming to how this course has been designed for this entire quarter. By that, I want to emphasize that there's been a lot of thought which has gone behind towards the creation of this institute, this program, and this course. And I'm sure you will experience that in the future if you are not experiencing it already. So let me begin by what you are going to encounter in second week. And I will also explain to you, the rationale of why we have conceptualized that particular module in that particular way. So this is titled as the Forum on Hindu Tradition. Kailash will be the lead faculty, and he will have some adjunct faculties.
7 of them.
Along.
7.
Along with. Yes, 7 of them. And the things that that Kailash is going to focus will be various dimensions of what people believe to be Hindu traditions. Now, when we talk about the Hindu world, it's quite possible that you guys are familiar with the word Hindu, or how, or the history of how the word actually came about. But it would still not hurt, for us to talk about it. India, since antiquity, has actually gained its name from the river Indus. From the river Indus or Sindhu. So Sindhu was called Indus.
Yeah.
And in the ancient times, the Greeks and the Romans called India Indica. Very direct relationship, with Indus.
And Hindu also came from Sindhu.
Exactly. So you have river Sindhu. The Middle Eastern people were not able to pronounce sir. So instead of sir, they pronounced her. And that is how the people living on the east of the river became Hindus. And all these people, they had many different traditions, many different ways of approaching the divine. That has been, the nature of reality right from the very beginning. So I think the moment we talk about the Hindu world, it is extremely important that we do not talk about anything which is monolithic. Diversity and plurality is built into the Hindu worldview. And it is not a matter of chance. I say it is not a matter of chance, particularly when you begin to explore the philosophies of the various traditions. There may be differences amongst the different traditions, but there is one commonality amongst all the traditions, which is the transcendence of binaries. Right, wrong, true, false. The issue is that the moment you transcend these binaries, your consciousness will become very plural and diverse. It's an automatic outcome of that. You will begin to look at reality in many different ways. You very rarely will come to this conclusion, my way and this is the way, and I'm not going to allow any others. So the very fact that you have a very systematic unfolding and unpacking of this transcendence in various Vedantic, Buddhist, Jain, and Sikh traditions, that it has become a part of the very DNA of the people who come from the Indian subcontinent. The plurality and the diversity. And this is, this is what Kailash is going to talk about. He's going to lay the foundation of this. There are other things also which we will be speaking on. I'm not going into those details. But one of the presenters that he will be bringing to the panel is Dr. Pranay Bahuguna. And he's talking about yogic roots of Hindu tradition. Now again, there are many different traditions. There are many different philosophies. There's another commonality. The commonality is that the philosophy or the vision or the darshan of all these traditions have happened through yogic means, through mystical means, through spiritual means. And if I may say, these realities or truths have become manifest to people by transcending the senses and the mind. So he's going to talk about the yogic root. What is it? What is the methodology which is actually pursued by different people who have come to have understandings of the Hindu tradition? The 4 ashramas and the 16 sanskaras, I don't think we need to go into them. In this particular session, you will also find a wonderful mix of the philosophies pertaining to the tradition and how those philosophies are going to be applied in the field. So one is the theoretical knowledge, one half is the theoretical knowledge. The other half is basically the application of that knowledge. So philosophy and psychology, theory and practice. So we have Professor Mukund Acharya, who is going to talk about compassion, dignity, and respect. I'm not going into the bios of all these.
Not posted, you have posted on that.
Right,
LMS.
that's right. But I would like to underline that all these people are very accomplished people in their own respective fields. So he is going to talk about compassion, dignity, and respect. Now, sometimes we think that we are aware of what compassion is. We don't really need to be taught. But I think it's still important to understand the nuances of compassion and how we can have that within our own hearts in order to reach out to people. A great part of counseling is actually to be very compassionate towards others and be able to listen to them in a non-judgmental manner. We have already spoken about. How can you get into the shoes of other people? How can you truly be empathetic? And in my understanding, these are not techniques to be learned about. If you learn them as techniques, you will falter and you will be found out. But if your compassion is genuine, if you have developed the capacity to really be non-judgmental and be able to listen to others with empathy, you will be able to transmit that to the people that you are in interaction. I would not even call them clients. That experience itself is extremely transformative. If you're carrying compassion in your heart, if you're carrying non-judgment in your being, by virtue of being together with an individual without saying a word, you will be able to transform that individual. These possibilities do exist. And these are some of the things that we would want to talk about, learn, in my understanding, not as techniques, but as education. What is the distinction? If you learn them as techniques, two things will happen. They will come from outside and they will become part of your mental being. But if it becomes a part of your education, then it will come from within. Education, the word itself comes from the word educare, which is to bring out things from within. Things that you already know, but it has to be revealed. Mrs. Shivani Hawkins, she will be speaking about connectedness of Hindu tradition. One of the many things that she will be talking about will be the fact that this tradition is not impersonal in nature. My understanding is that it is impersonal and personal both, but I want to give full respect to what she's saying. What she's saying is that you have different divinities that you encounter, that you interact with, and you become very personal in your relationship. She's basically talking about the bhakti side of the Hindu tradition. And when you manifest the bhakti side, how is that practice that is going to affect your counseling practice? How is it going to affect your interaction with the people? Something else also that she will be talking about will be the interconnectedness. This is again something which comes from the Hindu word. Everything is one, that is the ultimate. That one is manifesting in pluralities and multiplicities. And all those pluralities and multiplicities are interconnected with one another in profound ways. So that is something, she will emphasize. Aksharji and Nandita Rao Sharma will be talking about Hindu festivals and customs. Dr. Amita Rao Shah, she will be speaking about parenting and children's orientation. In my understanding, it is going to be a great presentation. She is going to speak about this from the perspective of a psychologist by the name of Erik Erikson. And Erik Erikson has spoken about identity formation. So how do you help the identity formation of children here in the United States? And how do you transmit the Hindu traditions to your children? Is what is going to be our topic of interest. Coming to week 3.
I have a point to make on that third. Yes. There has been a significant change. Yes. So I'm going to sit down tomorrow with Mukund Acharya and construct session 3. Okay. Because his son had time-bound issues. He was not able to do the panel. Okay. So he'll reconstruct it tomorrow. So you can broadly describe it.
Sure, definitely. So the title that we have here is Learning from Diaspora Community, Hindu, Gayatri Seva, Sukham, Jewish, Buddhist, and so on and so forth. Now, the reason why we are bringing into this mix this particular topic is because being in diaspora, at least for people here in the United States, is a new experience. It's not that Hindus have not been in diaspora. They have been in diaspora, particularly if you look at the people who were brought to the islands as indentured people. But we don't have that experience here. However, we have much to learn and draw from the Jewish community and from the Buddhist community. What are the learnings that they can share so that we can organize, or let's say, for instance, learn from them with respect to the things that we are doing, or we are trying to do for the Hindu community. So that will be the focus, in session 4. I am going to focus on listening, emotional intelligence, empathy, and other communication skills in session 4. I think I have already spoken about it as I was speaking about Dr. Acharya's contribution, so I'm not going to dwell on that any further. But what I want to emphasize is that when you interact with people, when you interact with people whom you're counseling, unconditional positive regard is a topic or a concept which is extremely helpful. Unconditional positive regard. You're extending positive regard to an individual unconditionally, which means that it is not contingent on the behavior that he or she is manifesting towards. In a certain sense, you can say it is profound impersonal love that you are extending towards an individual. So that will beg your pardon?
Why do you call it impersonal?
I call it impersonal because if you become personal with a client, then there will be legal issues.
And moral issues.
And moral, legal, moral and ethical issues. And that is the reason, the impersonal aspect has to be emphasized. But we'll go more into those details in session 4. That's a very good question. Session number 5 will be taken by Mr. Gaurav Rastogi and Mrs. Ashwini Surpur. The title is Bhagavad Gita's Unique Place in Hindu Tradition. Before that, we will have a session from Vijayji reviewing the core of Hinduism. So, we are going to have 2 classes that are going to specifically focus on the Hindu traditions from the perspective of Bhagavad Gita. 2, if not 3, approaches are going to be included. Vijayji is going to come from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta, and from what I understand, based on my interactions with Gauravji and Ashwiniji, they will approach it from the perspective of Raj Yoga, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. In session number 7, you will have the basics of geriatrics and palliative care. This particular session is going to be conducted by Dr. Jarina Kapoor and Dr. Jyoti Lalla. They will have 3 more people who will be talking about preventive care amongst the elderly, the knowledge pertaining to geriatrics, and also palliative care. And they will talk about the differences, because I think when you go out in the wider world, when you are counseling the elderly people, these are some of the things that you will encounter, and the knowledge of these topics will be extremely helpful.
Highly accomplished.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's, I want to emphasize that most of the faculty members are highly accomplished. I say most because I don't want to include myself. So everyone barring myself are extremely accomplished. Then you will have a session by Dr. Kusum Bhatt and Dr. Naras Bhatt, titled Psychology and Counseling. Now, this is a very important session. And the reason why I say this is that you need to understand the difference between psychotherapy and counseling. You can only be a psychotherapist here in this country if you have a license. If you have undergone certain hours of training under supervised guidance, and after you have passed a licensure examination that is conducted by the state board. Without that, you cannot. We are only producing counselors here. And it is important that you understand very well the legalities which are involved between counseling and psychotherapy. And Dr. Kusum Bhatt, in my personal communication with me, she has explained to me that she will go into those details very, very carefully. That will keep you out of trouble, you as well as the institute. And she will also talk about different techniques that are prevalent in the world of psychology counseling. Now, counseling is also very taxing. It draws a lot from you. Day in and out, you will be surrounded by suffering of other people. It will happen that your vital energy will get sapped from your constitution. How do you prevent burnout? How do you protect yourself from the emotional stress that you will be undergoing in this phase? This is something which Professors Naras Bhatt and Kusum Bhatt will be speaking about. And in the final session, which will be conducted by Kailashji, there will be a role play, and the session, the semester will be wrapped up.
Could you please clarify this? Yes. Session number 9, the management stress, anger, pride, and burnout. Pride and burnout is fine.
Yeah.
But the stress and anger is on both sides.
Oh, yes.
Provided as well as
yeah.
the people.
That's much more broader topic for him.
Yeah.
And by the way, this stress business and that, you're not going to be full-time practitioners of this. So I just want to make sure that you're going to be on your own time. You're going to go when you please. It's not like you have an office open 24 hours, people are knocking on the door. I just want to put a perspective on that, in terms of the burnout and all that stuff.
We're just providing you as many tools as
But
possible.
all the tools that we can possibly provide you, we have brought them to bear. So you can use them the way you feel. But the knowledge is very strong. Stress management, anger management, and this provider, what you call it, burnout. When you're supporting, it happens to all of us. When you're somebody at home very sick and you're constantly helping them, you also get burnt out. Those are good techniques to learn for all of us as human beings. So.
Yeah, I just want to point it is on both. He's been
Yeah.
addressing about how do you address people that are stressed out and have anger management issues.
And
then
the role
obviously-
play I had last session, I have sketched out, so everybody can be sketched out. So we create a scenario, like in this case, we may have 12 scenarios of different cases. Somebody calls you and says, this is this. So you knock on somebody's door and that is that. Or a hospital calls you, and you be assigned 2 people, and you then prepare, and then you come here, and then you play it out as if you are supporter and supportee. And then we'll all be guiding and listening, learning and adding. So it's kind of a role play, completion of the term. That is the number 10 term, role playing. So we have to define more, but that's the basic idea. And then you can go for Christmas holiday after that.
So that's thank you, Dr. Nusini. That goes us to the first semester. Then we have the second semester, and the third semester is going to be the field training.
Yeah, then mostly Bhagavad Gita oriented. Second one, and we'll talk about that.
What is the livelihood issue on this?
Huh?
Livelihood issue.
Livelihood. Yeah, so we are, very good question you asked. So fundamentally, what we are doing is not a high liability matter. It is more of a counseling. It's a Vedic counseling, Hindu counseling, whatever you call it. But there are certain boundaries that we do not want to cross. HCI as an institution which is going to certify you and you as individuals. So we're doing a lot of work in that area. We have a good understanding of what it is. We may end up getting an insurance. It's a very simple insurance in case there's any inadvertent mistakes and all that stuff. But I do not consider it to be a major issue. We've done some work, and California has very relaxed rules on the kind of service we are talking about. So that is, but it is our institute's responsibility to make sure we're very clear on that. So I would not go away thinking it's a lot, otherwise we would not be running this institution if there was a serious liability issue in this program. I just want to assure you that. But we have to do some more work, and as we learn more, we're going to share that with you. This class is going to bring you up-to-date information as we learn. We're all learning together.
And Kusumji is going to go into the details.
Sure. No, but in the legally, I've got a couple of councils I'm working with. I'm digging into the California the legalities and the legislative, what do you call it, regulatory issues. We'll be extremely clear on it. And we have already talked to some practicing these Vedic organizations. They're doing this already. They've done it for many years. So we're very comfortable that we know what we're doing. But we'll be very clear with it.
And the other part is, as we interact with the other organizations like the Jewish community and this community, we learn from their practice and what do they do.
And we have multiple sources. Yeah.
So we'll
that
sure
is for us to worry about. And then we share it.
Yeah. Make sure you're protected.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, like if you are counseling somebody, they should not hold us to be responsible. She said.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
We want to protect you first and us right away. Here's the institution, because this institution has to go on for 100 years. We're creating HCI for the next 100 years. And if we have any of this exposure, we won't even last 1 year. So please be assured, we have lawyers, we have a lot of brilliant people working on it. That would not be the issue. But you would have to sort of follow a guideline. So in fact, before you graduate, there will be an operating manual written for you, but you will be also contributing to that manual. It will say chapter by chapter, things we do, how we approach people, what are the protocols, how do you make a speech. It will be all written down in a manual.
And also what you should not do.
Oh, yeah.
What
There'll
are
be a
the
big
kinds
chapter.
of warning signals? What
A
are
big
some of the
chapter on
things
what
you
you
want-
would
don't
do
want
and not
to
do.
get into?
That's right. or if something happens and you're concerned, what to do, who to call, we'll have all that protection built into that. And you'll be part of that, that writing of that manual, first one.
And I think a lot of that we will learn collectively as
We'll
we
learn
actually get
too.
experiences. So slide, we just talked briefly about what does a CHT do, what a CHT does not do. But now taking the next level, actually making into
Much more finer,
to manual.
much more finer.
Manual is what we do.
Yeah.
Okay. The next session we're going to do, I think we have about 25 minutes till we get to workshops. Actually, just wanted to have a discussion with each one of you regarding the your objectives.
Come. I'm just like wanting to not hide in the corner.
That's fine. I've actually just been managing everything.
I know you are, but now you should come out, participate a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come on up, Thousand.
Okay.
If you can just turn the chairs around so you're facing each other as well as us.
Yeah, anyway, you can,
We had an initial plan to have the chairs this way, it didn't get set up for whatever reason, but we'll make sure for the next one. Are you using this?
Not anymore. Let me, I can move it out.
including that.
That's good, that way we can see each other and see us.
Yeah, whichever way you're comfortable. Did you take a tea break or something?
I had some water. That's all I wanted.
Just water?
Yeah.
That's good. By the way, our arrangement, we are thinking, which one we prefer.
Our plan was to have the
This way.
session almost like this way. Would you prefer that rather than out facing this way? That way you can interact with each other. as well
This is
as
our preference for this class is to go like, that's why you're sitting right now. It's not a class, we don't want to be classroom, we want to be more participatory. So we're going to switch over to next class.
The way the universities are, U-shape. Yeah, U-shape.
Ram Garu, we'll make sure. Okay, and we want to be, and you can come a little forward if you want. Mangla, you okay?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think.
Okay.
So if we can just go around, maybe starting this way. I think in the initial phone conversations we had with Gauravji and so personal phone, we all tried what your personal objectives were for this course and how you planning to take this back. What you know now that you might be learning, you will be learning from the course.
You think you made a mistake coming here today?
No, not really. I'm a registered nurse but retired many years ago.
Good.
But at present that I am doing the life elder care program in Fremont, where there is many meals on wheels and also VIP drivers and also fall precaution. And 4 different branches are there. But I am into the driving since I am in the medical field previously. So my best thing is to I accompany them and then stay with them. And then, but there is the thing that is the clause that I cannot advise in any way, even though I have plenty of knowledge about the food and then the exercise and all those things. They said no, you can't say anything.
Can you can really help us also? Please, in the next few weeks, find out what they think you can advise them. Play the other side of it.
Yes.
And let's understand them too, right?
Right.
Because I want to incorporate in our discussion with the lawyers, and I need to have an understanding of what these people think are the boundaries, and then how do we expand that? And then the second thing I like to hear from you is, what else would you like to be advising, where you're capable of advising without creating a life-threatening situation or what have you? So I want to get a little bit more definition to that dialogue, but you can be very helpful to us in that.
So that's my dilemma. But then again, out of practice, I worked as a bedside nurse and then for so many years.
Okay.
And then we have plenty of knowledge constantly.
We are going to use that knowledge, all of us, I'm telling you.
And then so that, but they say that you cannot go into that But many patients, we have a HIPAA to follow, that's health
I know.
insurance.
Yeah.
So, but many of them, they want me to go along to the doctor's examining room. And then they also say, she's a registered nurse. And I said, please don't say that. Because the terminology keeps changing then,
That's right.
because when they understand that, there's a medical person here, and they will not
Okay.
come down to the level of the, the.
I think we should have some more, because we have a lot to learn from you about out there, what is in the field. We don't know, a lot of things we don't know. So we want to learn from you, okay?
Okay.
Okay, great.
Hi, so I've come here 40 years ago and raised 2 kids. So I think that diagram of, I've been on the receiving side, I've received a lot from, the and all that. So I'm glad that I'll be able to reach out and help the family. I have personal experience of what it is to raise 2 kids here and distinction, and I've been studying Vedanta and Ayurveda and yoga. So I think I have a platform to give. That's what I'm saying.
Do you think we are onto something here, or you think we are?
It is needed,
missing?
actually, the diagram that you had about the Western model of support, and in fact, I call Vijayji, I just invoked him as my shelter, and he has actually helped me come to my house.
Yeah.
And so it was really needed for me, and I always said I'm looking for a church. I used to joke about it when my kids were young, and once he actually had a session in my house with the youth, with my daughter, then I actually found a essay that you had a write. So yeah, I mean, I know as raising the kids, and also when I'm volunteering at Yoga Bharati, I get to meet people.
Okay.
So yes.
But we want to have a profession of people with our CHT qualification in every zip code. Every zip code in the Bay Area should have at least one person that people say, a kid says, Mom, who am I? I'm going to call the CHT, let them come over to the house and give you a lesson, instruction. That comes or website, whatever. So we want to get, but we got to have the right model. The whole idea is how do we create, what is the right model? That's what we're all talking about. Okay.
But by the way, if I can just talk about the Western model, even in the Bible, it talks about helping the fellow Christian. Hinduism, which is great, and I admire it, is mostly about me and my God, me and my spirituality. The concept of the service part is not community service, is not inherent in the religion. This is part of the value and not actually in the religion. I think we can blend the two. That's really going to help CHTs go up and serve.
Okay.
So for me, there are 2 aspects. One is I'm volunteering in a lot of places, like some of the elder care homes, and also like homeless shelters, and also I volunteer to schools. I'm an engineer about because I really enjoy it. I just want to streamline and bring my beliefs in Hinduism, how best I can use for myself as well as for others. The second thing is a selfish goal. It is like I've started exploring Vedanta, Advaita, Bhagavad Gita, all these things. I think I'm at the bottom, and I just want to learn more about this and become a better person and understand from the people who already went through these things, so that I can take advantage of that. That's my selfish goal. Our thing is I went through the family life circle. I'm in the middle life crisis, you can say. So I raised kids, and I did a lot of mistakes with my older one, like most of the parents do. So I'm learning out of it.
I'm surprised.
So actually, I'm learning out of it, and and also I can learn from others, about psychology and how I can impact the Bhagavad Gita principles or Hinduism principles, so that I can give something back to the next generation, so that they don't need to do the same mistakes as a parent I did. Okay, hopefully. Okay, yeah, that's yeah. Those 3 are.
You mentioned volunteering at schools. What kind of volunteering you do? How do you see this helping you?
Okay, there are different levels. In the beginning, I used to volunteer. There's a reading program that I used to go to classes and I used to read. And then I'm a math Olympiad coach, and I like math and science and teach math. And also there is a North South Foundation. I train kids early, right? No FDA authorization. And yeah, mostly like, and through Yoga Bharati, I'm also teaching classes, and also so recently I started counseling the kids, like therapy, kids therapy. So it's a lot of learning for me. Basically, the selfish part is I want to learn, understand, and give something like how I can learn from Vijay ji, or like from all of you. Like you already have seen the life and understand a lot of things. So that is my.
Sorry, I didn't catch the name.
Krishna.
And if everybody can please just take it.
Yeah, sure.
I'm getting old. I need to have it 2 or 3 times before.
Sure. Krishna is name.
Yes, each one of you can repeat your name again and then talk about.
Yeah. Thank
you. Again, I'm Raju Rayasam. I'm also from University. Trained to get a teacher's training and then beyond of that. I've been involved with a lot of kids, teaching them in now, and also I was involved in the Boy Scout organization. My take on this is to be a first responder as a non-medical profession. I'm an engineer, very far from medical and all the stuff. So if I can be any help, not only with helping other people, but also learning about my own self, how can I be helped by HCI, so that we can share our knowledge and encourage people to come to us. That would be a great thing to achieve.
Gadapati is my name. By profession, I'm right now a certified Medicare licensed agent. So I do Medicare for a lot of people, 65 and above, of course. And I'm also I don't know if you've heard of certified senior advisor, the designation that I provided. I've taken that course, but that was not accepted in California. California said, no, we don't want that, but now they have brought it back, so I need to get back into it. But there also they talk about a lot of senior issues, the gerontology and how to deal with seniors empathetically, and and all this, a big course on that. So, but also I've been exposed to some of these Vedanta lectures, like Mr. Vijayji's here. Lectures I have attended 2 of them, and then several others I've been attending and reading about. I enjoy point that Mr. Singh, right? I don't get your first name. Kundanji talked about transcending through the binary thinking, good, bad, this, good, dark, right? They're all concepts that we have developed, conditioned to think in terms of, and I quite readily relate to those ideas, and that's quite interesting to me, to say the least. So
I had Upma with Ganpati ji at the Madras Cafe. He and I have a very similar background. He's also a PhD in material science, academic, and multiple roles he's played in life. So he's going to bring an amazing amount of experiences in addition to.
I hope so, and I hope to learn a lot from him. I'm quite
wonderful,
quite excited to be part of this.
I think it's great to be. Yeah, let's have you here.
Thank you.
My name is Anil Didi. So I walked into this room with expectations which are I'm happy that they are expanding. So I've been reading about a lot of literature. Right? Internet is a great source of information, knowledge. So I'm into Bible, as most of us are, but not terribly interested in theory so far. For the last 4 years, I've done some of the reading, including autobiography of Yogi, which is very popular. So that is one part I work in to gain more knowledge, a formal classroom knowledge about the subject and know more theory around it. But interestingly, what I'm hearing is the counselor aspect also coming into play. And that is where my other role, so I'm a software guy for now close to 26, 27 years. But there is a very interesting part which I've been exposed to, which is because my personal experiences, I'm also equally, I consider myself equally knowledgeable about nephrology. Right? So I've seen chronic renal failure firsthand, up close in the family.
I've been a caregiver for close to 13 years. And based on that knowledge, I actually started two dialysis centers of my own with one of my partners who's leading nephrologist back in India. So I've seen chronic problems. In fact, my USP in that venture was to add to a dialysis center opinion and expectations of a caregiver, because medical institutions deliver a lot of service, but what does a caregiver expect from that service, right? So there are other parts which I saw firsthand in certain expectations are there, and there is nobody to look forward to, because these situations are pretty unique, and chronic care of a patient has different dimensions. I think towards in the last session I heard about burnouts and all, and I can talk about that, what happens in both from a patient and
So you have interest in some of the topical matters that absolutely you just talked about?
I know all that firsthand.
Beautiful. You'll be a great contributor then. Yeah, we have practical, real life. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I think and I'm a software guy, so I look forward to see how I can add value.
Are you offering your own dollar services software?
I would look forward to it.
We'd love to have you engage with us. Please talk to me.
The LMS this morning, and I saw most of the presentation which was on.
Okay, so I'm gonna. We have a Google directors who's agreed to be chief architect for a subscar management software system, where we have already initiated. We need about 3 or 4. It's going to be. We want to make it world class, like nobody has done it before.
Yes.
We need 2 or 3 more people. We have a couple of people who can, but we need some thinking type architects who can, and then we can get the code written, but that is not issue.
Sure.
Looking for the architect. If you can be part of that with Ishwar Joshi, the guy's name.
Absolutely.
I'm looking back. We got to deliver that system by June. When this class comes out, we also need that system 1.0 fully debugged and released out in the market. So you please call me, and we got a great coffee session, and then we get
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've done some work with medicine folks. I'm developing on my own time systems which are used in.
Love it. Just get some own dollars going on this side.
Absolutely.
Other dollars will go.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Can we go on these?
Can we go on to?
Yeah. What is that? Yogi, are we?
No, that'll be at 5.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, still have option to go.
Have you introduced Yogi quickly?
I already did in the beginning.
You're introduced.
Yogi Sugar, media chair.
Yeah.
And
These
just in
are
the
media
background, just as a problem, which is picture background, don't let it bother you.
Yeah.
But later on, we'll have a group picture, but away from this room.
We want to have a historical picture of this group.
We just trying to take some candid shots of moving progress. Yes, ma'am.
So sorry, group, I think.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was going to go in there.
I think you're the youngest in the class. So far. Until then.
So my name is Dhruv TD. I'm in the BP.
Oh, that's now I got the connection. That's beautiful. Okay.
So yeah, I'm interested. I'm a computer vision engineer in Mountain and in my pursuit for truth is what got me here, like many people. I think religion contains the model which is useful for civilization propagation, and I've acquired knowledge which is important to have certain traits which are relevant to becoming that sort of a human being, which is always enlightened. And I want to understand how Hinduism explores that problem, and how, and if it's possible to wrap all of that knowledge in a container which is not associated with any other label. So I just want to test out if those values stand outside of.
We want to make it, we want to bottle it up and say, here, I think that's kind of my sense of it. It's like a nectar.
Right.
Make a bottle of Hindu nectar.
Right.
And say, by the way, just take it and start drinking it.
And of course,
that kind of conceptually,
it has to be.
That's a release 1.0.
That's
a release 1.0.
Right. It has to have, obviously, it has to have elements which are relevant to
the value has to be there, right? To have people engage and continue.
Right. And but I want to be someone who can help translate the model from Hinduism to current times in 2018. And maybe my age is going to help me.
That's what we need.
Great, great.
And yeah, obviously ready to contribute in software ways.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna, when your dad comes, you come with that, you please have coffee with both of them. I love it, I love it. I'm good at.
Also, the interesting, so a lot of people talk about, the dynamics of a generation difference.
That's what the beauty of you two coming together is, you're gonna provide a unique opportunity for us. I think Gaurav's daughter is coming, yeah?
Hopefully you can inspire others like yourself to come join.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw an example of his helping. I mean, he helped out today with the
No, that's wonderful.
Right. I mean, I feel like this information is relevant to everyone, right? Like people my age want to figure their life out too, but they just go to YouTube or other things to see it because they don't see Hinduism as, a wrapper where they can.
The whole approach is this particular first course, next 9 months, we have to be in a position to be able to come out.
Right.
And for people to say, oh, is that what you guys do? Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole idea. We are inside, right now we're all insiders. It's all insider trading happening here. And once we get something that's bottle and whatever, then by the way, this is a bottle.
Yep.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yep.
And everything is wide open. Okay, bring all the questions and let's see if we can sort out things together.
Namaste, my name is Anup Kumar, and by profession I am mechanical engineer as well as process architect, solution architect. I work in IoT, I work in AR, VR, and PLM solutions. And in the Bay Area, I am associated with Gayatri Parivar. They run Bal Sanskar Shala. Also, they help people performing different kind of sanskar, Havan yearly. I also do that. And apart from thing, to me, my life is simple. I just want to make it more simple, just to helping others. And I think the main thing of this course which attracts me, that is the Bhagavad Gita part. Okay, other part actually we are already doing that, but we are focusing on the Bhagavad Gita and how the use of Bhagavad Gita is going to help other, how we can help the community. That is the main thing that attracts me. I have read Gita so many times, but I have not understood. Okay, so I hope by the end of this course, I should be able to understand something. I should have some takeaway so that I can just share that takeaway with others. So that's it. Yeah, I am just here to learn and then help the community. And then whenever I talk with my friends, either Hindu, Muslim, or anybody, everybody has different understanding of Hinduism. Okay, everybody says Jai Shri Ram and then kill others. That is the Hinduism. but I think we will learn something here. What we are talking here about Advaitwada, or how we connect to the Paramatma, right? And we are just talking about the connection. So those things I think the concept of the Hinduism will be more clear to me, and I should be able to convey that to others in a better way. Yeah.
But coming back to the other side, you said you guys have some great practice outside Bhagavad Gita. That's understandable.
Yeah.
But those we want to know. So whenever we discuss practices and counseling and things like that, you please don't hesitate to bring them out and say, by the way, this is what we guys do. We may be able to grab some.
Yeah, we are talking about here building some kind of I think software or website resource where that people can perform sanskara. So our Gayatri Parivar, they have already released one application, and you can just open that application. You can perform.
So Nimit is going to be in the second session.
Yeah.
Bringing that aspect. He's going to be our guest. I know him very well.
Yeah.
And so Nimit is, so when he brings that up, let us see if some of that can be taken. We don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, because that application is got out I think 2 or 3 weeks back only.
Okay.
And that is super nice. Anybody can if has some kind, we say nothing happens without astha, saddha, and vishwas. If you are just doing blind, we say that is karma kand, that ends up in a kand. Okay, you don't get anything.
So
right?
we got the point.
Yeah.
So we'll get Nimit to. I'm going to call him and say, please include your 1.0 release. They already did.
Yeah, it is there.
Okay, he should describe that to us next time. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, namaste everyone. My name is Sushma Srivastava, and I belong to Gayatri Parivar. I also I know Anupriya and Vibhai. So I volunteer for them. As you mentioned, we have a Sunday school, and it's not focused only for the kids; it's also for the family. Because the idea is if practice or parents do not know anything about it, how they are going to emphasize or build into it. So that's the focus over there. And I have done my teacher's training with Yoga Bharti, the yoga teacher, and I'm pursuing a course with them is called PGDYT, so yoga therapist, so being a yoga therapist. So the counseling is a big part of being a yoga therapist, and I think the patient will be ranging from the kids to all of the elders. So my goal over here, as I heard about the course, to learn the deep knowledge of all the aspects of Hinduism, everything what we already described over here, and build into my practice so that I can cater the all range of the the people who will be coming to me as a therapist and get some holistic the naturopathy or holistic.
So you are already a yoga therapist already, or are you becoming one?
So I have done my half part and I'm just pursuing that one recognition sometime next year.
So you see this enhancing your abilities.
Exactly. As a parent, I'm a parent of teenager who asked me several questions about the Hinduism, why I have to do practice the Hinduism, why you are taking me to the temple. I'm a sandwich generation. I have my parents, I had my parents, my mom is here. So I have to also see how the parents things coming to me, how we can cater to my daughter. So there are several aspects, several things, and I'm very oriented to serve the community. So that's my goal, which is being served through this course, and I can build it.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Namaste, Eknath Pai. I get to work with a lot of families through Bala Gokulam program of HSS. Although all my views may not be HSS views, it's personal views. I grew up in a small village and I grew up in a really Hindu-oriented society where everybody cared for everybody else, and you do wrong things, you get punished right there. Today, that doesn't happen in our society, or at least I don't see it happening. I don't necessarily feel that's right or wrong, but it's just different. Looking back, I really appreciate the way society was in the way I grew up. I do see that doesn't happen often in the society that we live in, or we don't connect as much. So having said that, even meeting with a lot of people, connecting with them is an easy part for me. But the part that I usually have trouble with is how do you want, is this in the society when we are living in such a society where we cannot freely express ourselves, what is the best way to approach when you have something to say or when you want to help somebody? Those are the things that I'm looking in this course. Although I may have some ideas of my own, I want to learn from everybody here.
You are thinking about the norms, the protocols,
right?
How do you approach a needy, or how? What?
Yeah, so I have worked with a lot of youngsters, and they have lots of questions, and I have experimented my own ways to approach those answers, right? So answer them in the way I can express myself. Okay. But sometimes those may not go very well.
I think that's why we all kind of bring it all together here, and hopefully.
Yeah. So the younger generation thinks differently. Their ways and means are different. We used to read books, but they always look at Google. So there are ways, very different ways they deal with. We never used electronics media for any of our communication as much as we see right now. So all these differences accumulated, right? So how we can use them in the context of Hindu and connectivity and living.
Mostly, my name is Ajay Khanna, and I think
It was very happy to hear Vijayji and Prasad and Kundanji. I think we have very accomplished faculty there, and for sure. So I think my first objective would be to learn and from that learning evolve as a better person. I've not had any formal community service experience, but I think I've been I was fortunate to come in, fortunate to get an opportunity to learn Vipassana meditation a few years back, and that I think whenever I'm in that meditative mode, I don't create misery for myself, I don't create misery for my family, and I don't create misery at my workplace. So I think indirectly, in that sense, I'm kind of that lens to community service, right? If you're a good human being yourself and you're not spreading misery, and you're spreading happiness. So that's one way to look at it, and that's what has been my drive. I think I've become a much better person, learning from everybody here, not only from the faculty, but I think a lot of esteemed colleagues here, and get an opportunity to contribute in a formal and institutionalized manner. My work experience for the last few years, I've been in corporate development, mergers and acquisitions field. I've been an investor myself as part of Cisco Systems. So I don't know if that experience would be helpful to Kailashi, who's an accomplished entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur himself, and I think he's totally connected in the industry. And my experience has been more on the, as part of Cisco, providing the funding, right? So, but this is a very different kind of an environment where you are seeking funding for a non-profit organization, which is a totally different beast, I would say. But hopefully, I can get to assist Kailashi and anybody else to see if there are any avenues where I can help.
The PDs, you can help me with the PD? Yeah, we love it. I need, by the way, I need support.
Yeah, I was sharing with the team here. So I've had last few years corporate development M&A experience.
Beautiful.
But my role has been on the other side of the table, which means that Cisco does a lot of funding. Right? Yeah. This is a different.
This is different. But our story, I think everybody that we talk to, they think it's a good social purpose. So they're going to be sympathetic, but we're usually highly prepared. We just don't want to go casually.
Right, and I think corporate would talk about corporate social responsibility, but when it would come to real investing, they probably, if they have a CSR budget, they would want to support. But I think the individual investors who are ready to.
So we're not going to our funding. We are not going to India. CSR is an Indian concept. We are the Bay Area. Our funding has to be Bay Area. Our
time that will give opportunity for faculty to reflect on some of those and bring it into the classroom. That is one thing. So the only other addition I would do to what Professor Kundan said is that you might use this space as a way to reflect and elaborate something. But whatever interaction you want to have in the classroom, that can be extended through the LMS, but not replaced by LMS. Yeah. I think that's one subtle difference. But if you can keep that in mind and raise questions, challenges, look at something, then that will become very rich.
On the lighter vein, please don't make it on one side.
Do touch on the homework requirement as important for accreditation. The homework requirement is essential.
Oh yes. So, at the conclusion of every class, you will be requested to fill out a form that will have 3 questions. The first one will pertain to the learnings that you have had in the class. The second one will be related to how you intend to apply those concepts in the fields when you go out. And the third one will be
Faculty.
Yeah, will involve faculty evaluation. How you rate the faculty and so on.
And suggestions for improvement. Yes. For future, that's good. And they can do online.
Yeah.
That filling.
Yeah.
Good. Now back to.
All right.
Thanks.
Let me make sure people are
in this format, if you want to see.
Bob and Carmen, are you guys in? It seems we can't hear.
Yes, we are here.
Great. Would you like to run your presentation? You will have to, yeah, there you are. Let me switch to the speaker view.
Hi.
Are you ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Oh, good. Okay. So hello. We're not doing really a presentation necessarily. We're just here to say hello and make sure that you don't have any difficulties or questions, and to see how we can help. So just briefly, I'm Carmen, this is Bob, and together we're New College Office, and we're the administrators of your learning management system, which is designed to supplement and facilitate communications and other things outside of and in addition to your actual classroom. And so however we can best do that, we're working with Akshat and Gaurav and hoping that we can make this a successful experience for all of you. We've been doing this for a long time, too long, like more than 30 years. So we're at least that old. And so learning management and teaching and all sorts of stuff. So we really hope that whatever we know, we can help you meet your goals. So I'm going to stop. Bob is going to do more of the talking. And again, this isn't really a long presentation. It's just to make sure that everything is working okay for you.
Right. And hi, I'm Bob, Carmen's partner. And I just basically want to make sure that your experience in the LMS Moodle is as flawless as possible. So often technology can get in the way of actually learning things and paying attention. So one of the chief things I want to make sure is that everyone knows how to log in to the LMS. I believe you've all been provided the link to it. And just want to make sure you know that your username is the first initial of your first name and your full last name. That's true for scholars and faculty as well. And I want to know, has anyone tried to log in, and have they met with success or failure?
Yeah. Successful.
Yeah. Successful. Oh, okay. Well,
any failure?
Has anyone failed to get on or had any trouble updating their password?
One person.
Okay, I'm sorry, sir. And your name is?
Vijay Kapoor.
Vijay Kapoor. We're going to.
Okay, we can maybe email later. We'll check in with Akshat later and make sure that you get a chance to log in.
Right. And so everyone else, though, has been able to log in, update their password. Have any of you looked, I'm sorry, update both your password and your profile. Has anyone ventured on to actually go through the example assignment or discussion?
Outline.
I can get into the profile.
Just outline.
Oh, okay. So,
It's a mixed bag, Bob. Some people have already tried it, and some have had difficulties, and some have not tried it yet. Okay.
Okay. And so if if Akshat, if you could, we won't take up all of your time now, but if you could make sure we have a list of all of those with difficulties and what the difficulty is, I'm sure we can fix it in very short order.
And we directly, you don't be the middleman. The person should directly contact tech support over there. And they should address it. Why do you want to be in the middle?
Yeah, so we'll figure that out.
Okay,
after this.
please. Okay.
Wasn't there one scholar that said to me he could not log in? Right?
Anyway, they should connect.
Yeah, we'll get a list together.
Tech support.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
All right, carry on, Bob, please.
Okay, great. And so we'd like to know primarily from the lead instructor or from whoever should coordinate communication, just how the students are doing, not just problems, but what might be improved or done differently.
All right, Bob, so that would be Dr. Kundan Singh ji over here. And I'm sure he'll be in touch with you over the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that would be great. It's so nice to meet you.
If you see any problem in the field, please send an email to us.
Yes. Hi.
Just any suggested improvement in how the thing was came across. Yeah.
Right.
If we want to go through the course.
Right.
Akshat wants to go
And
through the course.
and Akshat, would you like us to go through the course so that the students can actually see it, especially for those that haven't logged in yet?
Yeah, that would be great, Bob.
Okay, great. And so can you, this is different from GoToMeeting. Can you give me the screen so that I can share it? Or do I need to do something?
Do you see a share button at the bottom of the Zoom window?
Let me see. I do see a share button.
You don't
Right.
And so,
and you can use it to share your entire desktop or particular application windows.
and I think I'm going to.
By the way, please,
One second, please.
please, what did you leave the?
We'll just complete that part.
Okay.
For the curriculum, and the same technology. Yeah.
We'll just do 1 minute of prayer completion and then you can just start. Just take 1 minute.
Bob, while you get set up, we are going to take a minute here to do our closing prayers.
Oh, great. Thank you.
We will repeat the same Sahana also. They do the same way. So I'll just say it and Om Sahana Bhavatu. Om Sahana Bhavatu. Sahanau Gunaktu. Sahanau Gunaktu. Sahaviryam. Sahaviryam. Karavavahai. Karavavahai. Tejasvina. Tejasvina. Paditamastu. Paditamastu. Ma vidvishavahai. Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you. And those who don't need to go through this, that please go ahead. Okay. All right.
All right, Bob, we are ready to go.
All right, great. So this is your course here. Once you get this link, this is the URL for the course. You'll go to the logon screen. You'll put in your username and the password. You should be prompted, everyone should be prompted to change their password right after logging in initially. If someone has a problem, if that doesn't happen, please let us know because it should with everyone.
Their own password, that's what. Okay.
Yeah. And so this is the course here. This is the main banner where there are announcements. Announcements are typically one-way communication from the instructor from the faculty to the scholars. Basically, it's one way in that if the faculty says that he or she won't be able to attend class or there's some other issue, it's not really designed for replies. And so while announcements are used in many courses, they're not used a lot because typically faculty want replies to what they say and that sort of thing, a discussion as opposed to a one-way announcement. And so this below the announcements is the web conference. It basically is a link that will take you to your video conferencing information and how to add it to Google and iCal. Going back, this is a resource primarily for students. Again, this is really in the introduction of your actual course itself. You see this is the attendance button. Students won't be able to actually access and operate it. It's for faculty only to just basically keep track of who shows up and who doesn't. Ask the Faculty is something that a lot of students and faculty use in finding out information. If you have a question for the faculty, this is the principal place where you can hold loose and non-graded discussions, non-graded typically. And so scrolling down, this is just additional information. And these are, there's a link to it here, but these are the assignment examples that we referred to earlier. And clicking on, I'm logged in as an instructor. I'm logged in as an instructor. Let me see if I can just move this a bit. I'm going to change my role to that of a student. If I'm just, yeah, so I'm going to switch my role to that of a student, or a scholar, I should say. That's, and so, let me just go back here. And there are no discussions. Let me just go back to the introduction here. And so as a student here, and there is certainly a lag. Now, I'm not actually seeing the assignment here. I think Carmen's going to just check this out. I'm not able to actually see it. And if things are grayed out or unpublished or otherwise not made available for students, they won't see them.
We do see it. So, you can just go to the discussion.
Right.
They participate, a lot of people.
Oh, I see. Carmen is telling me that a lot of people have already participated in the discussion. Right. And so let me go to the discussion. And as you see here, discussion practice, it was started by Carmen. There's already 4 replies. you can click on the replies to see who's replied, and these are the people here. And it's, of course, very easy to actually, because I'm only masquerading as a student, it doesn't permit me to actually reply to any of these discussions.
So I'm going to jump in for just a second. That's the same thing with the assignment because he's masquerading. So essentially these two activities were set up there so that you could practice just submitting an assignment before you have to submit the real thing that you were instructed in terms of the 3 questions that you're going to be asked to answer every Sunday or after every Sunday class. And so they're just there so that you can, without pressure, click on something, you know, the assignment, and upload something and then delete it and then see that, oops, if you uploaded the wrong paper or the wrong thing from your desktop, when you're doing your assignment, there's a way to edit that before you actually submit it. And the discussion example was also just there for you guys to really, without any pressure, just click and do the 2 activities that you'll be doing. So, and I did notice that in the discussion example, quite a few people did say hi and looking forward to meeting everybody. It is possible to set up, in addition to ask the faculty, it's also possible to set up something that is just an open discussion, again, to supplement and to keep you guys in touch in between your Sunday sessions, especially, let's say, when you might be skipping a couple of Sundays because of holidays or other things like that. So again, these 2 are really just examples so that you can get comfortable clicking without any pressure that you're making some sort of a mistake or putting something up that's you know, that's not what you wanted to when it's an assignment or a discussion that would really count for you. So that's really all that is. Do you have any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Just I want to know where I'm going to find my homework and where do I respond? That's as simple as that. Where is the homework?
Right. Your homework will be right here. Like for today, September 23rd, you have an assignment here. Assignment 1, and I'm back in my role as administrator, so I can't show you the student view, but from the standpoint of the instructor, they can see how many participants and if there are any submissions to be graded. And so this is your assignment here, and they should be each.
Well, how do I answer this? The homework, how do I send back my homework?
Right. When you log in as a student, you'll see that you have to submit. There's a submission button, so you click on that. You should have prepared your paper beforehand. You shouldn't start the
PDF.
It can be a PDF, yes.
Okay. Yes.
Typing on directly on here.
Right. So what you'll do is you can have a Word document, a PDF, or if you're instructed to do a PDF, that's fine. You'll see an assignment. You'll have a different view, and I'm sorry that we didn't log in the student, but you'll see this, and right here are the instructions. So when you see it, you'll see something at the bottom that says add submission. So you'll see this text, and then right at the bottom, there'll be a little box that says add submission. So you click it, and then you say save changes after you upload your file. It's pretty straightforward, but if anybody has any difficulty, just let Akshat or the instructor know. And then the next step will be clicking edit submission or submit. And so there are basically 3 steps to submitting a paper.
Right. And also know that once you click, there's a little button there. Once you click final submission, you won't be able, scholars won't be able to edit their posts, their assignments, once they've been submitted finally.
Yeah. Grading is going to be complete, incomplete. There's no letter grading. Any general format is going to be used after every session. In your word situation, you can make it those 3 same questions, but of course, different answers. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You had a question?
Yeah, for the next 2 classes, I have to be about an hour late. So how could I start listening to it online?
You can move into.
Like today's lesson, you missed 1 hour?
Yes.
Okay, no problem.
so she can go back and listen to that.
Right. So, Carmen, the question is that one of our scholars is going to be missing an hour of the next two classes, and the question is how can they participate in the thing in the lecture? So I can answer that. We have the web conference through which all the remote participants are connected right now. So in the general section that we saw earlier, there was a web conference link, and if you click on that, you will get instructions on how to log in. And you can log in through a SIP bridge, which is just through a dial-in. But we recommend that you either log in through a desktop or you get the Zoom app on your phone. And then you will be able to actually see as well as listen and participate. And we are also going to be uploading the recording for each of the classes. So if you are not able to participate during the class, then you'll be able to listen to it afterwards, or if you just wanted to refer to the same material again. All right, Carmen, go ahead, please.
Okay, you know what, I'm gonna let Bob, I'm gonna try to log in as a student. I'm sorry, hang on a second.
Sure.
I wanna log into their course in the student view. I need a separate browser from this one. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Right.
Technical thing here. I'm gonna log in as a student. I have a student profile in your course just so that we can show you
since I'm in,
things.
it's going to
That's why I
log
wanted
me
a
back
separate.
in.
That's why I wanted a separate browser.
Yeah. And
Sorry about that.
And here, so here, separate browser, we can just. Oh.
Go back to what you're doing.
Right.
Oh, I
So-
you've taken this.
Sorry, please bear with us for one moment.
Sorry, our system's a little slow. Forgive us.
We're going to disconnect for 1 second as we switch our wireless network, but we'll be back. So don't go anywhere.